I have to think of a joke as well. Help me, children!
I mean, you've already done the starting on time one to
Yeah,
death.
we've done that one enough times.
You could do it again.
Well, I think it's got to be. I think it's got to be about your faction choice, Lucas.
I could just scream WOG at the top of my lungs.
No. Be cunning but brutal.
Be chill, bro. What else?
A podcast where we play on the faction that we are most practiced with, and
Don't last minute switch.
a podcast where we would never, ever YOLO White Scars.
Let's see here. Content discussion. Where the fuck? Why are there so many channels in stat check?
I don't know. And this went crazy one night.
There it is. Watch.
Oh, you posting in there?
Yeah, I posted in there last week and we got a ton of viewership out of it. I'll throw it in the BIFPOD once. You throw it in the whatevers.
All the whatevers. They love to hear it called that.
The niche group and the PDX and the... You don't even have authority to post announcements anyway.
You mean authority?
Yeah. You don't have authority.
There's an O there, not an A.
Oh, he's posting in the...
Authority. Like a...
Lucas posting here. No, perfect. Oh, he did already... What? He posted it in the memeing chat.
I did not.
I literally don't see it because I have the memeing chat muted. Yeah, there it is in the memeing chat.
What?
You put it in Dreaming of Memeing.
Oh, did I really?
Yeah, you did. There you go. Thanks, Nick. Alright, that all looks good. Comments. Here we go. Beans for the wah. That's what's up, man. That's great. Alright. You guys ready to make a podcast?
Sure. Oh shit, I'm not logged in here anymore. I can't see the fucking comments. That sucks. YouTube.
You put under self-promotion. Oh,
Yeah.
There we go. Easy. All right.
Yes.
Here we go. You got a joke of some kind, Lucas?
Sure.
All right. Welcome to Best in Faction.
The next generation.
A podcast where we would never, ever, ever switch our faction last minute.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
And today is the day before the day of all days. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. If there are any actual ladies that listen to this podcast, you don't show up in our analytics.
I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah. But gentlemen, it is almost time for the Las Vegas Open 2023, which means that this right here is the very last episode of Season 1 of Best in Faction The Next Generation, and we are going to be talking all about the Las Vegas Open, what we're taking, what we're doing to prep, a couple of tips and tricks and steaming hot tactics to teach you how to win LVO, a thing that all three of us have done multiple times in the past. So, before we jump into all of the nitty-gritty and the details, how you boys doing today? How you doing, Nick? Lucas's mouth is full of mango, so you're going first today.
All right. I'm doing well. I'm excited for LVO right around the corner. I was unfortunately not able to go last year, so this will be my first LVO, which is something, very exciting. Yeah, haven't really played a lot of 40K this week. Played a lot last weekend, which we'll be talking about. Got to watch a great game last night between the two of you as well. So, 40K is in the air. I'm ready, dude. I'm ready. Not a lot left. A few little practice games here and there, but at this point, it's kind of just like, let's see what we can do. What about you, Lucas? Tyler seems to be, cleaning his computer. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, like Nick said, played a great game at a Tyler last night, which was really fun. And then didn't play much over the week other than that. But on Sunday evening, I did get back from a little practice excursion with the wonderful TJ Lonigan and Anthony Vanella over in New Jersey. So Nick and I flew over there on Friday night, and or more like Saturday morning, and played a whole bunch of games there. Really put us through the ringer in terms of AOC matchups, because obviously that's still a thing that we need to consider for LVO, and not a lot of people play AOC armies up here in the Northwest. So it was good to get some reps into that kind of army. Yeah, had a really fun weekend there. Thank you to TJ for cooking. Thanks to Anthony for hosting. And yeah, it was just great to see those guys and get some practice in before LVO. Came on back, and I've just been plowing through another work week. Definitely looking forward to LVO though. It's gonna be great to see everyone, and to be in such a big tournament again. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what's up with me. How about you, Tyler?
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I am. While I was scrambling to get stuff ready, I knocked over my bottle of white paint, and there was white paint all over my table that needed cleaning there. So sorry about that. It's all better now. I am doing fantastic. Got a little bit of a lingering cough that I thought I was done with, but apparently not. It's not COVID, I promise. But yeah, we had a great game last night. We're going to be making that into a bit rep later today. Hopefully that'll be up later this week. Hype with our LVO list. I had a really great practice weekend as well. Couldn't quite make the trip out to the East Coast with the boys, but instead had a bunch of my locals come over, got practice reps into Sisters, Harlequins, and Freeblade Lance, which were three armies that I hadn't... Well, I played into Sisters, but, you know, I played against Ryan from our Sisters episode the other week to see what that Argent Shroud list was like. And then Harlequins and Freeblade Lance were two armies that I had not played into yet with the GSC, so needed some reps into that. Went pretty well. Went 3-0 on the weekend. So feeling good. My entire life has been consumed by painting the last couple of days, as I made the ridiculous decision to stop using borrowed models for LVO and get all 110 of my own dudes painted up to a reasonable degree in the last week and a half, basically. And we're going to make it happen. We're on track to do it. So I'm real excited about that. But more than anything, I am so pumped for Vegas. Oh my gosh. Last year, this was the most fun event that we had ever gone to, and I am so ready to bring it back. So yeah, I'm feeling great. Oh man. So yeah, I figure we'll start off with our list, talk about what we're taking, and then we'll talk a little bit about goals, what we're trying to accomplish, what we're looking for. And then, we did not prep any slides for man versus matchup, but that was a plan. We'll see what happens. We may just divulge into other conversations. A lot of possibilities. Let's get right into it with some lists.
Yep.
All right.
So lists are still hidden, right?
Oh, yeah, they were last night. Did anyone check this morning?
No, I have not. Luckily, they're locked now.
Yeah, they're actually locked. That's nice.
Right on time and really reliable.
Classic FLG BCP shenanigans. Really sorry for any of the people who, they're still hidden. For any of the people who were not able to get in on the first wave of people, like people who had tickets, who didn't get the email the first time, that was a mess. But whatever the case, hopefully you're in now. If you're having issues with BCP, make sure to email Frontline Gaming right now. Preferably you already have, but get that taken care of so that you can be in and ready to go. But speaking of lists, we're going to start off with our boy Nick the Metaslave Olsen Johnson with his Beam Death Votan. You know it, you love it. But we're going to take a minute here to go real in depth. Part of the idea here, by the way, is that we're going to talk about our lists a lot right now, so that in 2 weeks when we break down Vegas, we can jump right in, because we'll have at least 18 games to cover. Possibly more if anyone does especially well. Possibly fewer.
Possibly less if we forget to eat food or something, you know?
Yeah, that would be unfortunate. But Nick, go ahead and break us down what you've settled on, and for people who haven't seen from Votan in a while, why you've made some of the choices that you made.
Yeah. So here you go. Sneak preview if you're listening here, not trying to hide my lists or anything. I am playing Leagues of Votan. I'm playing Ymir Conglomerate, which is the subfaction that gives the plus 4-inch range to weapons. It has the 4-up invuln on the land forts, 5-up invuln and everything else. And it has access to like a mortal wound stratagem. You probably heard it the same. It's not much different from what I've been running. It's actually exactly the same, but I'll break it down anyways. It's led by a Warlord Call with a long list and Grudge's End. That's the combo that allows him to snipe things with Judgment tokens, with the gun that hits auto wound things with Judgment tokens. And it also allows him to like pass around Judgment as things die during a phase. It's got the Grimnir, so the Wizard is still in the list, and I'll talk about why a little bit after this. He has the Murmuring Stave. That is the action cast, no a third power. He has gain a CP. He has give a core or character unit 6 of Feel No Pain +1 toughness, and he has the targeted smite to deal with those pesky wound caps. I got the Forge Master. You know him, you love him. He's the dude that keeps those forts alive. 3 squads of 10 Hearthkin with a med pack, or Marcus Zinch for our fans of Chaos. Got 2 squads of 3 Pioneers. That is the bikes. They're all kitted out with Scanner, Searchlight, and Hylaz. And then got 3 squads of 5 Zerks with, you don't even need to list it there. They got concussion mauls. If you're running axes, you're a little bit silly. And then we got 2 forts with all the beams. And that's it. Comes in at a nice 2,000 points. Starts on 2 CP.
So I know that one of the essential questions coming into the last week's practice games, and I know we'll talk more about those once we're done with lists, but one of the questions was Grimnir or no Grimnir, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the thought process of why you were debating cutting him and then why you ultimately ended up keeping him?
Yeah. So the Grimnir, the biggest strength of him is that he gives you a CP every turn. It's a Warp Charge 5, very reliable. And if you haven't played against Votan, if you haven't played Votan, they chew through CP. You can pump anywhere between like 1 to 3 CP into a land fort every time it activates. Each one, increasing its lethality. And your goal with Votan is to table your opponent first, score second. So you want to try to hit them as hard as possible. And he allows you to do that. The downside to him, though, is he is a Psyker, which means it locks me out from taking Abhor the Witch into one specific matchup, which is Thousand Suns. And more importantly, Thousand Suns have a secondary called Wrath of Magnus, which can only be taken if your opponent has a Psyker. And it's basically if they cast more maledictions, witchfires, or blessings than you, they get a point for each category they cast more than. Which, since they have, 15 Psykers to my 1, they're going to get 3 points in it every turn. It's a pretty much guaranteed 15. I was debating, I remember last week, maybe the week before, even talking about cutting the Grimnir for a second Iron Master. So you can't upgrade the second one to the Forge Master, but he can still repair a tank for D3 +1. He can still give a tank +1 to hit. And he also doesn't, give your opponent 15 points if you're playing T-Suns. T-Suns Flamers is a very strong list. I hadn't had the opportunity to test into it locally because there weren't that many people over here that play T-Suns. But at the practice weekend with Anthony and TJ, I was able to play because, that's what the Army TJ has been playing for like the whole year. And yeah, playtesting it a bit. We found out, it is a bummer getting Wrath of Magnus, also not being able to take Abhor. But we came up with a strategy that we think could beat most T-Suns. There's a little bit of luck involved in that matchup, but it's a solid enough strategy that we didn't think cutting the Grimnir would be worth it because he makes every other matchup harder, the loss of him. It's also like I have all of those practice games with the Grimnir. I'm very used to like the flow of the list with that extra CP every turn. And cutting him could be a little bit awkward. I would hate to make a mistake in a winnable game where I go to do something and then I don't have the CP to like do something and I just lose because I'm not used to playing that matchup without that CP income. So ultimately, that is why the Grimnir is still on the list. Just familiarity, and also the matchup isn't as auto lose as I thought with keeping him in the list. It's much harder, but it's not auto lose.
Makes sense. Is there anything else? I know over the last couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about the little upgrades that go on to your various units here. Is there anything that you're doing that you don't see everyone else in the Votan community doing here? Or is this sort of what the community has settled on in general?
The community is a little wild sometimes, dude. There's some people out there that are still playing like Chronos, Iron Here champs, and I don't understand that. But no, I know there was like a ruling for LVO where they said that the Tyrant Guard, bodyguard, right, that allows the Hive Tyrant to be Lookout Sir isn't, it's an aura because it's a bodyguard aura, right? It's kind of like one of those bodyguard auras that got changed into provides Lookout Sir as long as one model's there, etc., etc. Votan have a upgrade that their troops and their bikes can take called Comms, which allows them to get reroll ones to hit from the call as long as they're within 24 inches of him. And it also gives access to a 2 CP stratagem, which you can use at the start of any phase. And you pick a unit within 12 inches of your unit with a comms, and you turn off its aura, or auras. You might pick one aura. But most importantly, people realized you could turn off the Tyrant God aura, and then you could just light up the Hive Tyrant. That was something I considered, but like, seems a little bit too cute. I couldn't really think of any other aura except maybe like the Foul Blight Spawn we're turning off is cool. And then it's like at that point you have to cut the Searchlight, which is non-negotiable. You keep the Searchlight, and then you have to cut the Scanner, but the Scanner is really good because it gives Ignore Light Cover, which is what makes those pregame moving bikes with like the AP2 minigun so lethal. Is you're able to like something like Sisters is another hard matchup, and being able to like get behind walls and like blow up some Sisters that are hiding in cover. Very strong. So again, that was one of those things where it's like I considered, but I just like stuck with what I know because of familiarity with the list.
Do you need line of sight to use that stratagem?
I don't believe so. I will double check. It's a stratagem I've never used because I've never ran comms.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you do, I don't think it's worth it at all. But if you don't, it's kind of spicy. I will say, as someone playing GSC, I would really prefer it if no one turned off my Icon Wards aura. Thank you very much. So
that is
honestly,
true.
Just in case I have to run into that, I would love it if you could let me know.
Well, let me look that up real quick here.
Yeah.
And we can see it. Here we go. Select one Votan's comm unit from your army. Select an enemy unit within 12 inches of that unit. Till the end of the phase, that enemy unit can... Oh, okay, sorry. You pick an enemy unit to not be affected by any of our abilities.
Ooh,
so
gotcha. So you'd hit
a lot worse than I thought. So it's specifically just for the Hive Tyrant. Yeah, it doesn't even turn off the lights.
It is extra good into the Hive Tyrant because most people these days, at least who worship
they
the
run
Church of
2
Jonathan
units.
Lennon, are running double Tyrant Guard. Yeah.
So it's specifically a Hive Tyrant thing. I already got some own ways, get him. I remember in our game, Grudge's End was proving to be a little bit scary into your Tyrant, so...
Yeah, that thing is a real casino. Could do so much damage if the dice just decide it.
Yep.
Very cool. Alrighty. And then, Nick, let's talk about matchups a little bit. What are you... Of the top up dogs in the meta right now, which, like, just to be clear for everyone at home, before we talk about how Nick feels into them, what are the top dogs? Talk about T-Suns and Flamers. Mm-hmm. Definitely Hive Fleet Kraken, one of the top dogs. Mm-hmm. What else are the big bads, do we think, for this LVO, given the meta and the numbers? Lucas, you can chime in here as well.
Tau.
Yep, 100%. Tau,
Votan.
Fantastic army. And Votan, absolutely. Could not agree more. No guard in this meta, no Marines in this meta because we're playing Old Hammer, but yeah.
Demons probably as well.
Demons is surprisingly good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're posting like good win rates all the time.
Yeah, that's probably the big 5.
Yeah.
There's also
Demons kind of like getting
there's
in there.
a lot of knights there as well.
Yes.
Between the two different subtypes, there's a fair amount of T8 and T7.
Yeah, if you want to do well at LVO this year, be ready for both flavors of Knights for sure. I don't think that they're going to take it all the way, but they're definitely going to be there in several rounds.
Probably have to go through them at some point.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'd say the big ones to watch out for definitely T-Suns Flamers, Votan, Tau, Kraken, Demons. ECs seem to take in EC being like the best CSM army. Definitely seems to have taken a dive in popularity. A lot of the people switched from that to T-Suns Flamers who are running it.
Do you guys have any idea why? That army still seems fantastic to me.
No idea. I think it's just they moved on to the next best Chaos army. I mean, there's definitely still people playing EC. Like Anthony is going to be playing EC.
Yeah, for sure.
So that army still slaps. I definitely think it's better than Bile.
Oh yeah, especially since. Oh wait, but we're playing with proper fight on death Bile though, right? Because that's a data slate change.
Still good.
Okay.
It's still good.
It's definitely still good.
So, but people seem to be doing weird stuff in Bile still all the time.
This is true. Every time I see a Bio player throw 10 Terminators on the table, I just kind of chuckle.
Like,
What
it's
are you doing,
fine.
dog?
It's just better
Yeah.
to invest in their Smash characters because, like, play 4 Smash characters and they get to fight twice guaranteed, usually.
100%.
So, yeah.
Very cool. All right, sweet. So of those big bads, which ones do you feel confident into? Which ones are you scared of? What are you teching for any of them? Like, what's you're not teching for T-Sons and Flamers, you said, but what's your status on the meta?
Yeah. I mean, so what am I most scared of? T-Sun's Flamers is very tough. That army gets around a lot of the innate tankiness of Votan. Like, Votan are very tanky because they have AOC baseline. You can't reroll wounds or damage against them. Like, especially Ymir, I have invulns everywhere. And with the Forge Master, I get to turn off your, like, one big hit every turn into my land fort. T-Suns say, cool, all that's really nice. Here's 30 mortals, right? So that's very tough. The scoring is tough because they have much better scoring than I do. And it just kind of turns into me having to, like, crack their castle as quickly as possible. So the other thing too, I mean, there's going to be a lot of good players playing T-Suns Flamers. I mean, there might be a lot of bad players that are also hopping on the wagon. So we'll have to see what happens. But I'm scared. I mean, I'm worried about that list. That's definitely a tough matchup. Tau is swingy. There's like 2 ways to approach the Votan game as a Tau player from what I've seen. There is the hit them as hard as possible when you go first Tau and hope you don't bounce. And if you kill enough, you're good. And if you bounce, you instantly lose. And my experience into Tau has been everyone trying to alpha me, bouncing, and then instantly losing. But I've also seen the other side where the Tau player plays like a slower, grindier, more patient game, which is fire and fading everything and going like, yeah, you don't get to shoot me back. And I'm eventually going to win this war of attrition unless you come over here and hit me really hard right now. So that one's a bit of a tough matchup too. It's just swingy. We're just throwing a bunch of 4s into each other. So we'll see what happens, right?
But you think that's more concerning? You're more scared of Ganyo than you are of Ogden? I don't know if they're going, but as playstyles.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Ogden's is just like the game's decided in the first, like in a game like that, it's decided instantly. We'll see who wins.
For sure.
The longer, grindier game is, more of a chance for mistakes, more of a chance for, swings, etc. I think it's an interesting game, but it's definitely something you have to keep in mind. It's certainly not an auto win. And then trying to get others. Kraken Tau. Not Kraken Tau. Kraken. We were talking about this the other day. Kraken is definitely beatable. The Flyrant has a bit of a hard time like beating up the big forts because you don't get to reroll wounds into them. It really just comes down to how many zoanthropes they have, I think. And Tyler and I were talking about this the other day. Like the good number is probably like 6. 3 is like too little. 9 is really good in a Votan, but like kind of you sacrifice some other matchups. But yeah, if I run into someone in the middle of the tournament with like 6 zoanthropes on Kraken, I'm like, all right, this guy knows what's up. That'll be an interesting game for sure. And I mean, out of the top dogs, those are kind of the ones I'm like most keeping my eye on. We didn't really talk about Harlequins at all. I mean, Harlequins are still really good, right? You are muted, by the way, Tyler.
Oh God, yeah, Harlequins are insane. Yeah, how do we not mention them? They're fantastic.
So, yeah. Outside of the top cut, armies that I'm worried about in general, fast melee armies on like those close deployments, like the Scouring, Conversion, Death and Zeal. I guess not worried about Death and Zeal, right? We don't have to play it. But day 2, right? Conversion and the Scouring are both day 2, which means, if we are undefeated at that point, we're going to be playing other people that are also undefeated. And if I run into a fast melee army who wins the defender roll-off, slams a ruin down in the middle, and then goes first, it's not looking great. It's not an issue with like them being able to like murder everything I have. It's more of a issue with them being able to keep me on my side of the board and deny my primary super well. Like playing into Blood Angels, going second on the Scouring when they get the middle ruin. I don't see how you win that into like an equally skilled player. So that's a tough one for sure. You kind of have to just like jam it and hope your dice save you, which is a bad situation to be in, but that's how it be. So
Makes sense.
yeah. Other things though, like other armies who try to like play me in a gunfight, armies that just try to sit back and outscore me, a lot of those, I think you could just hit the pressure, just run on into their castle, sweep them aside. At least that's the goal.
For sure. Makes good sense. All right, cool. So yeah, that's Votan. We'll see how they do. They've been doing pretty well in the past, and we'll talk a little about your goals a little bit later, but it seems like you're in a pretty good spot to put up a good showing. Cool beans.
All right, Tyler, I believe you are up.
Yeah, we're saving the best for last.
We are.
Yeah. So this is me. For those of y'all who are not watching the show live, I'm in here as Tyler still painting board cell. I've got you guys know Cross-Eyed and Painless by Talking Heads. They've got that outro where they say "I'm still waiting" like 100 times. I'm still painting. That's my life, and I'm just me until I die. Apparently, literally painting skin on Adeline Jackals right now. So we're playing the GSC. I am the only guy taking this list, as far as I know. Like if you're taking this list and you're not someone who I checked in on, you're very cool, and I love you. So don't take offense to this. But like what I mean by that is Lathuris is not coming, and Innis is playing Kraken, which means that there's not gonna be like a bunch of different GSC players out there. So if you were worried about seeing a bunch of us, it's me and like Bilbo Garrison is gonna be there, and he plays interesting stuff, I guess. Anyway, here's the list. I've been talking about it for a while. It's been evolving a couple of places. I think though this is exactly what it was last time. But for those of y'all who don't care as much about forum things as I do, the list is single battalion. We got a Primus, who's the warlord. We got an Icon ward, also just naked with nothing. We got 5 acolytes with nothing. We got 6 acolytes with hand flamers. We got 4 squads of 20 neophytes. 3 of them are 16 shotguns, 4 seismic cannons, and those 3 have perfect ambush, lying in wait, and excavate, which are the count as crossfire and exposed upon arrival, the 3-inch deep strike, and the turn off a piece of realistically your opponent's terrain by removing light and heavy cover and inspiring, and then also by turning it into difficult ground. Don't forget to do that next time, Tyler. Slight spoiler alert for the bit rev that we're working on. Totally forgot that. I was too excited. And then the 4th squad is actually 16 auto guns instead of shotguns, and then still 4 seismic cannons, and they have from every angle, which is that they can be deployed as a blip, and then the blip gets picked up after I know who's going first if I want. And if I do that, they get to outflank, strategic reserve style. And if they do that, they get to arrive a turn early. So they can show up on turn 1, or they can show up on turn 2 in your opponent's DZ. But of course, never from their battle edge, because that's how strategic reserves work. We got 10 pure strains with They Came From Below, which if you've played into any kind of GSC, you've probably seen before. It's the dudes that pregame move. And it's not a pregame move. It's a move in my command phase if I go first, just when they show up from a blip. So if I go first, they show up on the very front of my DZ, move 8, auto advance 6, and charge. That's 22 in charge for those of y'all keeping track at home. It's a very scary unit. Putting out 40 attacks at 4-3-2, 4-3-1, hitting on 2s. Yeah, surprise. Pure strains are damage 2 now. I declared it. That is a real thing with this army, by the way. It is so easy to cheat with Genestealer Cult because no one knows what your shit does, like, at all. And you really gotta be honorable and have good integrity to make sure that you know all of your stratagems and use them correctly. Because they have a lot of weird caveats that if you're not paying attention, you'll miss, and your opponent absolutely will not catch. So be careful with that stuff, especially if you're playing into it. Then we've got the Nexos with Cranial Inlay. That's the 5-up CP regen and lets him make 2 phone calls instead of just 1. That's what I call the Strategic Coordinator ability, where he lets someone benefit from auras from across the table. Kellamorph with Wormtooth rounds, so he can shoot stuff in the face. He's real good at that. And then the Sanctus with nothing. My favorite personal piece of tech, the Clamavis with the Voice of the Liberator, which puts out both of his point-and-click auras to 18 inches, both the offensive and the defensive one. And then 3 squads of 10 of these guys, the Jackals, with heavy flamers on the quads and 2 demo charges per unit. Innes' recommendation, I switched from the leader being one of the guys with the demo charges to just 2 regular dudes. And so far that's worked out really smart. I'm not sure why I was doing the other thing before. And yeah, that's the list.
How much CP do you start on?
It scores real hard. Pardon?
How much CP do you start on?
We're starting with 3 right now. It's very funny. I look at a bunch of other tech pieces and I'm like, man, I would love this relic or that relic. I would not mind starting with 2 CP, but it turns out you can't take 4 relics.
Yeah, that is true. I have one question. I know you were debating this last time. Where are the cars?
Oh, the rock grinders?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're looking at rock grinders in the rearview mirror, my guy. Those things are a lot of fun. They have a lot of shenanigans that are really great. The transport shenanigans are really fun. The caches of demo charges can provide a lot of firepower. And they're also only 24 inch range, but because they're quick, they can cut angles, which is nice. But at the end of the day, I think what really 100% sealed it for me was the game into Custodes at Slaanesh, because those fucking Melt-A-Missile bikes just blew through the rock grinders, as you would expect them to. They're Melt-A-Missiles, they're rock grinders. And I just kept thinking to myself, man, oh man, if these were shooting neophytes instead of rock grinders, each Melt-A-Missile would kill at most a single dude with a shotgun instead of a 120-point tank. Man, that would be so much better. So I've gone back to my proper roots as a Horde player. Those of y'all who may not know me locally don't know that my heyday of list creation is always with a pile of dudes. I miss my Gaunt carpet. I miss my Acolyte carpet. All that good stuff back in the day. So all dudes, no trucks. Your Melt-A-Guns can die mad. It feels real nice. I got to do that into the Sisters recently. I was playing into our boy Ryan Sharowick with his Argent Shroud Sisters of Battle, and he was like, boom, here's a Retributor squad. They're going to shoot, and they killed 2 bikes. And I was like, all right, that's fine. And then I literally ignored them. I didn't put a single bullet into them on turn 1. And he was like, what? The Retributors? They've got multi-meltas. And I was like, uh-huh. And those girls have Stormbolters. I'm a lot more scared of that, thank you very much.
We got Ryan in the chat here.
Yeah, I guess so. Hey, what's going on, Ryan? But yeah, so this is the right list. The grinders are out. These guys are in. If you're playing the grinders, it's a totally valid and viable list. It has genuine advantages. Don't feel bad about it. I think we've been calling it kind of colloquially the training wheels version of the list. Honestly, in part because you don't have to paint so many damn neophytes, which sounds pretty nice right now. But it's a very good list. It does its thing. I mean, Lithoris took it to WTC last year for a reason, but at the end of the day, I think this is just a little bit better.
All right.
Tell us about the Climavus with the Voice of the Liberator. How's he been doing, and what do you use him for?
He's been doing real well. So for those of you who again, for the uninitiated, the question here is which relic to give the Clamavus. Now, the Clamavus base does a couple of things. He's got a 12-inch no deep strike aura, which is real saucy. And then he has 2 different point-and-click abilities. One of them is defensive, used in my command phase. One of them is offensive, used in my morale phase. They're both 12-inch range. The defensive one makes my unit able to action and shoot, which, love that. And then also makes them eligible, or not eligible, makes them immune to combat attrition. Not immune to combat attrition modifiers, immune to combat attrition. So if I fail a morale check, I pull a dude, and then I don't roll any more dice. We're just done. I'll check coherency, but no rolling a die for every model fleeing on 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, frickin' Night Lords or whatever. None of that. They're just chilling, which is real nice. And then the offensive one, used in my morale phase, I roll 3 dice, And if I beat my opponent's leadership on this one unit within 12, doesn't need line of sight, I pick one of two things. Either they stop whatever action they're doing and are incapable of doing actions until my next morale phase. Or, secondarily, they lose OBSEC, both of which are absolutely huge for an army that is trying to outscore its opponent and an army that is in general is trying to punish primary really hard. I can very easily often put a little bit of OBSEC on your objective and say, surprise, you don't have OBSEC anymore, so it's mine. Or you've only got a little bit of OBSEC on there, or you've got some OBSEC on there, and I've got some non-OBSEC on there. Now you're not OBSEC either, my primary as well. So it works real well for both of those things. And then the question is, which relic do you give her? You can give her what I'm giving her, which is the Voice of the Liberator, which makes both of those 12-inch range point clicks into 18-inch range point clicks, and also gives her a 12-inch aura of +1 leadership, which is kind of nice. Or the other option is Oppressor's Bane, which is a auto pistol relic. You love pistol relics, and honestly, I appreciate the flex of taking a pistol relic, which is a 3-shot 4.22 pistol. Doesn't snipe or anything, but it treats its targets as crossfire and exposed, and at the end of the day, what that means is it applies a crossfire token. That's what it does. It says that unit within 12 gets crossfire, because it also gives out the crossfire keyword to the Nexus, which she otherwise doesn't have, which is quite nice. I can definitely see the appeal of that. I have not personally found myself in need of more tokens nearly as often as I would like to abuse the Clamovis shenanigans at 18. And also, unlike in the game last night, it generally means that I can play the Clamovis a lot more defensively and not have to throw her way in within 12 of something I want to put a token on in order to get the job done. So I've settled on that. It's a little bit snowflakey, I admit, but you got to think about distances here. This came up in the game against Ryan a lot, where it was like, she's going to stand here within 18 of that thing over there to give it the debuff, and within 18 of that unit over there to give them action and shoot and ignore combat attrition. And those units, or this is max moreover, can be so far apart. 36 plus inch and a quarter for base, 37 and a quarter inches of range on both these abilities. It's almost the whole table. It's fantastic. So I've been really enjoying her with that combo. It makes the Knights matchup better. It makes Knights and Cats, because you can remove some OBSEC from Armigers, which is really nice. So it makes that better. It's nice into Demons. It's nice into anybody who has OBSEC Rats that want to sit back and try to hold objectives. It's nice into Orcs if they take Horrible Gits. It's just overall a really useful bit of thing. It's great into Tau, turning off OBSEC on Firewars, or more importantly, telling a unit they can't fire marker lights. That's funny as hell. So there's a number of things there. And then it's also really great on some missions. Like, for example, it's real good on the Scouring when people are trying to get those freebie strategic scans to just be like, nope. It's great into Sisters. This came up against Ryan. It actually ended up not working because they didn't roll quite hot enough. But he was trying to Sacred Ground in a couple of places on turn 5, and I was like, that unit does not. And that's a 5-point swing if it works. So that's a real nice thing. Useful into Grots for good bits, stuff like that as well. So she's a great piece, and leaning into what she does fundamentally, as opposed to giving her another dimension of usefulness, is the direction I've chosen to go. Not everyone goes that way, but it's what I've settled on, and we'll see how it does in Vegas. Cool.
Nice.
Matchups wise, I'm in kind of a similar boat to Nick. I am very scared of T-Suns and Flamers. We're going to play out that matchup a little bit later. I haven't played it with the GSC just yet. I've played into a lot of Demons, but not the T-Suns version. So we'll see how much the Mortal Wound output makes a difference. So that's concerning. I'm not scared at all of Tau. I'm not particularly scared of Votan. Nick and I will find out how that actually goes.
I think if you don't panic, that's a very winnable matchup.
Yeah, it seems very winnable. Who can Auspex for Votan? Is it just the bikes and the trucks?
Anything with a scanner. So the troops could as well if they have a scanner.
Do your troops have scanners?
Mine do not, but other people might.
Gotcha.
But those are the only things that can get scanners. Bikes, troops, and wagons.
Well, those are the only things with guns, so...
I don't know. Maybe they've been playing Hearthguard, dude.
Oh, can the but if I'm playing Hearthguard, they have a 12-inch no deep strike bubble.
That's true.
So maybe they're playing double Hearthguard.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, they don't have the scanners.
Anyway.
There you go.
You'll love to see it. Can the buggies take scanners?
Nope. And the Thunderkin can't either.
Oh, spicy. Please take all these terrible units so I can shoot them. Anyway, so the Votan matchup's interesting. We'll play that out soon. And then the Demons matchup I feel very good about. I've played that matchup a lot of times. It's a really complicated game, and if you're a newer GSC player and you get wrecked by Demons, I have absolutely nothing but sympathy for you. It's really hard, but I feel very confident that I know how it works. I don't know how it works better than other Demon players do in general. And then the CSM matchup is interesting. I would like to avoid CSM if possible. It's very doable, but it can get hazy.
All flavors, or like a specific flavor of CSM?
Anything with a Terminator brick is scary to me. I'm a lot less scared of Bile than I am of VC.
Gotcha.
Blastmasters can do decent amounts of damage from distance.
Yep.
But in general, the army has a bit of trouble with melee characters, and especially with melee characters in transports. Though
Or like
Harlequins
melee.
is...
I was gonna say, or like melee characters screened by a lot of stuff.
Yeah, melee characters that are in deep and that are not like Kellermorph and Sanctizable. Like I can kill a Master of Executions if I need to, or a.
But you're not going to kill a Marcus Zinch Disco Lord.
No, I'm not, unfortunately. So that's an interesting matchup. That one becomes very move blocky. That'd be fun. So yeah, we'll see how we're doing. Those are kind of how I'm feeling into the meta right now. Oh, and Knights. Imperials feel great. Chaos Knights, whoo-wee. I feel phenomenal into bad Chaos Knight players and absolutely terrified into good Chaos Knight players.
Yeah, so anyone but Lucas.
That's basically it. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't think Taos is coming to LVO, which is good because he would probably do nasty things to me.
But a lot of Chaos Knight builds are quite variant, right? There's just a lot that have, a lot of people are bringing 0 chain guns or 3 or something like that, and then got mad lads like me who are bringing 8. And
you got crazy people with double dominant, dude.
Really sus.
The how good I feel into any sort of knights is directly proportional to how many big knights they brought. If they bring 0, it's sketch, regardless of what flavor. If they bring 1, it feels good. If they bring 2, it feels auto. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So
interesting.
We'll see how that goes. Might bite me in the butt if I end up losing to 2 big knights round 1. But I'll take that on the chin because I deserve that. So yeah, that's where the GSC are at. Like we said, we're trying to make a whole bunch of bit reps just before LVO. So hopefully we'll have those up very quickly so you can watch some of them either before or during. If you're like, man, I really wish I could watch Tyler's game right now, but he's not on stream because they only put the most attractive people on stream on day 2 or whatever. So you can go watch just play on bit reps instead. Anyway, so that's GSC. Let's hear all about the Chaos Knights from our boy Lucas. Oh shit! What's up? I feel like I've pulled this bit like 3 times. Lucas, what do you got going on? The boys is back.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, I didn't write my list correctly. Oh well, I'll fix it. So yeah, I decided to go with orcs. I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast for the last month, you know I've had a lot of dilemma on like what should I play, going back and forth, not really knowing what's the best choice, and kind of decided on the orcs because I realized a lot of the matchups that Chaos Knights and orcs had that were bad are shared matchups that are bad, right? So like we both feel kind of sussed by Tau. Votan's a little bit better for orcs, but things like Emperor's Children and Bile are both a little bit sketchy for orcs and Chaos Knights in equal measure. So I just figured if I'm going to go and have a certain set of bad matchups, why not just play orcs so that I enjoy myself a little bit more? And, I'll just still have those same bad matchups. Because at the end of the day, I do like playing orcs more than Chaos Knights. So I decided to go for the orcs. Maybe it'll bite me in the butt. I haven't been practicing them the most, but I have been getting a lot more games in the last month and a half with them, and I'm having a ton of fun. So yeah, this is the boys is back. It's a battalion patrol of Goths. We've got a boss on Squig with Arda's Nails and B-Side Mantle. He's my warlord. We've got a Brutal but Cunning Killer Claw Trucker boss. He rides in a truck with his 5 Meganobs, who are coming on later in the list. We've also got Zagstruck that I forgot about. He, for those who have not seen him, is basically a Stormboy war boss. He goes 18 inches during the log, and he, punches things really hard. And he's a 5 Feel No Pain. He is the G. Love that man. We got 30 Gretchen. We got 20 Beast Snagga boys, 20 Storm boys with claws, 15 Mandos with claws. That's 3 different squads. 5 Trucker Meganobs, as I mentioned earlier. 11 Pigs with Squigs. And then 2 Kill Rigs with 4 different spells on those guys. And then I also have a truck with Squig tires. So it's a little bit faster. And that's the list. It's a little bit different than traditional Goth Pressure, which takes more tools that can kind of charge you on turn 1. I think those lists tend to have more commandos and tend to do more like deploying on the line and that kind of thing. This list is a lot more defensive. For those who have not seen the Orc secondaries, they are quite good. And this list is kitted out to do all of them pretty reliably. While also still, being able to bully the opponent off of their objectives pretty well. So yeah, it starts on 0 CP. I don't need any coward points. And yeah, I'm just eager to see how it does. There's a lot of punching power in this list, and it is really fun to play.
Awesome. Do you want to describe some of those Orc secondaries? Like how did the secondaries, go into your list building, into your game plan with this list?
For sure. The easiest one to explain is Stomp 'em Good. This is the one that I take the least, so I will mention it though because it is good in certain matchups. It's basically 3 points if I kill more in melee, and a bonus point if I kill 2 units and still beat you. So yeah, Stomp 'em Good is good into basically like guard and Tau. So I'll take it there. The 3 that I take most often, however, are a Battlefield Supremacy one called Green Tide, where basically for every 10 Orc model, if you check every quarter at the end of the Orc player's turn. If they have 10 Orc models in it that are more than 6 from another quarter, you get a point. Important to note here that Gretchen have the Orc keyword, so they can score you Green Tide. So this is pretty good, just for sitting on your half of the table and scoring a 10 at the very least.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good. We've got the biggest and the best. Actually, let's leave that one for last because it is the best. We've got Get the Good Bits.
Actually, the best secondary.
Yeah. Actually, the best one.
Straight up monkey mode secondary, boys.
That was not okay.
You get your 30 Gretchen. They do an action on a midfield objective. So Orcs core units can do actions on midfield objectives. Every time you complete this action, which it completes in your next command phase, you get 3 points. But
or the end of the battle, whichever is first.
Yeah, or the end of the battle. So it does complete at the end of the battle. Like if you go second, you can just do it on 3 midfield objectives and get a bunch of points. It does cap at 5. Every time you could score it, you can only get a maximum of 5. So there's only value in doing it twice at any one particular point in time. Very importantly, unlike a lot of the other like scan objective things, it's not tied to which objective. So you can just sit on one objective in the corner and do it 5 times and get 15 points. And also because the secondary needed to be better, Gretchen and Luda's complete immediately. So the 30 Gretchen you were taking to do Green Tide, also jerk off in the corner and get 15 on your secondary. So amazing. Hilarious secondary. I don't think I've gotten less than a 12 on it in any of like the 20 games I've played in the last month and a half with Orcs. So very funny. Probably not that many games, but either way, ridiculous secondary. And then biggest and the best is a secondary that you do with your Warlord. You get 2 points for each of the following to a maximum of 5 at the end of each battle round. You get 2 points for for being on a midfield objective you control. You get 2 points for killing 5 enemy models. You get 2 points for killing an enemy unit. And you get 2 points for dealing damage in melee to an enemy character, vehicle, or monster.
Dealing damage. Not killing. Dealing any amount of damage scores you 2 points.
Yeah. So like my boss comes in and kills
combat.
My boss comes in and kills your 5 Space Marines on an objective and then holds it. 4 points. My
I
Warboss
do.
comes in and kills your character on an objective and holds it, 5 points. And it maxes at 5. So yeah, this is another redonkulous secondary, and I have built into this very heavily with the boss on Squig. This is one of the lowest damage Squig bosses you can take. He doesn't hit all that hard at the end of the day, but he does have Artis Nails and B-Side Mantle, so that he is in... All in all, he is toughness 7, -1 to wound, -1 damage, 9 wounds, and 5 up feel no pain. So you can
5
definitely...
invul.
What's that? 5 up
Yeah,
invul.
he's got an invul.
Yeah, all war bosses up for 5 up. So yeah, he is. I mean, like, if you put dedicated anti-tank weapons into him, he will eventually die. But to anything other than that, he will not die. It is pretty funny. And also mortal wounds can kind of kill him as well. But
and somehow, if they have like something that wounds him on 3s, if you have CP lying around, you could 2 CP transhuman him.
And transhuman as well.
Yeah, that dude's impossible to kill.
Yeah, very funny. So the idea here and why these secondaries are pretty silly is if you take biggest and the best, green tide, and good bits and sit on your side of the board behind terrain, you're going to get a 35. That's a 10 on biggest and the best for standing on a midfield objective, 10 on green tide for being in your 2 table quarters, and a 15 on good bits because haha. So the those 3 in conjunction can set orcs up for a very solid defensive plan, and you can often take them and just use your Grots and Warboss to score all of that, while the wave of 20 Stormboys, 2 Rigs, 11 Pigs, and 20 Snaggas just crash on your opponent, give them something to chew on for like 2 or 3 turns, and hopefully deny a couple rounds of primary, and by that point, hopefully it's enough to win. So that's the list idea. It's not as aggro. Like I said, it's not as aggro as some of the other versions of Golf Pressure that run more like forward deployers. But I thought it was good to kind of help lock down the secondary game plan and allow me to play more defensively, which is not a playstyle I'm really adept with, but it is very fun and rewarding.
Yeah. It was cool watching you arrive at this list, because, I mean, it kind of started with you experimenting with the Death Skulls variants and then realizing you wanted more damage. So you went back to Goffs.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of realizing that a lot of the things Death Skulls were trying to do in terms of scoring, I could do almost as well with Goffs. So I should just like do them almost as well, but also still have a ton of damage. So
yeah, makes sense. Can we talk for a second about how this list compares to your LVO list of last year?
That is let's pull it up.
Making some jokes that
I've got it right here. So here's your LVO list from last year.
Sure.
It's triple detachment because that was a thing you could do because CP were free. So he's got Beast Boss on Squigosaur. Very different setup though. He's got a.
I still started on 0 CP, by the way.
Kill Choppa. Yeah, absolutely. You spent
Went
all
from 12 to 0
pre-game. So you got Beast Boss on Squigosaur. He's different, but he's still a Beast Boss on Squigosaur. You got 10 Snaggaboys. You got 5 Mega Knobs. They do admittedly have flamers this time. You got 10 Stormboys. You admittedly don't have a claw on the knob. You have a truck. You admittedly have a second truck. And then you've got another one. You've got a Beast Boss and Squigosaur with Beast-Hide Mantle and Might is Right. What is Might is Right versus Art is Nails?
Might is Right is +1 strength on attack. This was to get him to strength 8 before the WA changes.
Gotcha. So sort of a mixed boss that was somewhat tanky, somewhat punchy. 10 more Snaggleboys. Another squad of 5 Mega Knobs. These ones have the custom shooters, though, so this is exactly the same squad. They're not trucker. Oh, and they're truck. These are truck boys. So yeah, the exact same squad. And then sure enough, you've got the War Boss in Mega Armor with truck boys, though he has Art as Nails instead of the boss on Squigosaur. And Decrussion Armor instead of BBK Killiclaw.
Well, there was a reason for this.
Doing?
This was because of the absolute asinine ruling with BBK last LVO.
The Squig is not the Warlord?
Yep. Do we want to talk about that at all? Or no?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I would love to, but it probably wouldn't be good for our audience.
Yeah, 10 that's premium content. Join the Patreon, come to the Discord, talk to Lucas about the Squig being the Warlord. 10 more Snaggaboys, and then 20 Commandos instead of 15, 2x10, and then the 2 rigs. So basically, what I'm reading is, you drop 5 Commandos, 5 Mega Knobs with Scorches, the second squig boss, 10 snaggas, and that's it. And then you pick up in exchange for that 11 pigs and 10 more storm boys,
30 Gretchen,
and 30 grots.
Rearrange the war bosses, get Zag struck.
Oh, and Zag, yeah.
Lose a truck.
He also only has one truck boy squad on this. He had 2 truck boy squads on the last list.
Yeah.
The Scorcher guys were truck boys.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like at least 60 to 70% the same.
Oh yeah.
And on the table, it looks identical.
Yes,
like,
it more or less does the same thing. The biggest change is the pigs, and I was just not a believer in the pigs for a while because I thought their models looked gross. And then, I still
secondary wise too. I think the secondaries were a lot worse in pre Nachman, right? Did all of them even exist? Yeah. No, those are all.
They definitely did, but
the good bits was like way worse.
Yeah, good bits was weird. Stomp 'em good was unchanged. Situationally very good.
Was Biggest the same?
I
feel like Biggest was really bad in the book.
It was a meme.
Yeah, I think it was really bad in the book.
Yeah, I think I got changed with Nephilim to be better.
I don't even maybe the standard on midfield went from 1 point to 2.
I know Green Tide had to be buffed.
Yeah, Green Tide was also really bad.
Yeah, I don't remember. But either way, the secondaries have gotten a lot better. So, any questions about the list, guys? Decisions that I've made or thoughts on what it looks like?
Yeah, talk to me about the Storm Boys. You've been playing Storm Boys and Wagons for a really long time, and that fundamentally seemed insanely good to me. This is a soapbox I get all the time. Anytime you can put a dude with a jetpack in a boat, that's just such a good combination. Storm Boys and Wagons, Grey Knight in interceptors in rhinos, fantastic.
Yeah. Votan Vanguard bets and wagons. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Lax allies, man.
Few months too early. Sorry, guys.
I don't know of any
other units that do
it other than those two.
Yeah.
Is there a third unit that does that?
I don't think so.
Puts jump packs and transports.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not that I can think of.
I think it's just. Oh, maybe you can put Sky Claws in the plane.
Okay, relax.
Oh,
you
can put Taraxi in termites.
Oh, you can.
That's
yeah,
right,
that is true. That. Also, like any elf coming out of a transporter is pretty freaking fast, but not the same as like going 14. Is that the base move of a Storm Boy, or 12?
18.
18. Oh, 18 with the advanced charge. Yeah. So
auto
12.
advance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see a wagon anywhere in sight here. What's the deal? What's up with the Naked Storm Boys? What are they trying to do? How are you using them? Why don't you have a wagon?
Yeah. So the Storm Boys on the wagon was something I used for a while when I was running 3 wagons with Mega Knobs. And the idea there was just to get the 3 inches extra movement in matchups where the mobility on the mobility on your anti-infantry units was more important than keeping the Mega Knob safe. So that was over the summer and last spring, things like Eldar and Harlequins and stuff like that, where just sheltering the Storm Boys was more important. Here, it would admittedly still be very powerful to have Storm Boys go 21 and then charge, but the issue is there's no other unit that goes in those wagons, right? And I was a believer in the wagons for a while, but I think you need to be able to cover a lot of distance right now in the game, especially with how much shooting there is. So being able to advance and charge on the kill rigs is really powerful. So, and also having their shooting in mortals does kind of chip in. So at the end of the day, it comes down to which one's better, kill rigs or wagons. That's the first question that needs answering. And because I decided kill rigs, there isn't really anything that wants to be transported by a wagon. So there's no point in forking over points for a wagon. Because it's nice to have 3 inches extra movement on your Storm Boys when you go in, if you already have a wagon in your list, but that's not worth list designing around. That costs 120 points. It's just totally not worth it. So, sometimes they go in Deep Strike to stay hidden because they can't hide in any transports, so sometimes that's just necessary. But, having them on the board is threat enough. 18 inches is surprisingly far. What I try to do is line it up, especially if my opponent has shorter range shooting, which is Short range shooting is definitely the danger zone when you're playing against Goffs, because if you want to come forward and do damage, then I get to hit you back. So I'll try to line things up so that if you want to get in range of me, you're going to get Storm Void. And usually that goes pretty well. So, yeah. I still really like them because they can go fast. They're great for move blocking. They're great for objective stealing. They can punk your opponent's characters if they're not careful. So they can do a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, just no point in putting them in wagons anymore.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to cut the truck package to make that fit, and that doesn't seem worth it.
No, yeah, I was thinking about like if you cut the truck, and then you can rearrange a bunch of points to turn the truck into a battle wagon. But Goff Mega Knobs are just worse than Trucker Mega Knobs. It's like you get exploding sixes, but in return you lose 13 inches of mobility. Totally not worth it.
Yeah, definitely not.
They were definitely their strongest with Gaz. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other tech piece that I don't see in here, Lucas, my boy, where is Makari?
He's only good with Gaskell, and my homie needs some help. Okay. This is the last tournament where he used the same number of points as Abaddon, and let me tell you, that needs to be addressed. Luckily, they've done so by bumping up Abaddon a little bit, but good lord, Gaz is just
they've also
bad right now.
Made it so you can't take Gaz in an Orcs army. So.
Oh my god. Okay, we're not going to talk about that right now because I will rant for a
So they've addressed it by just removing him from the game, so you don't have to worry about him anymore.
So I mean,
I think you can take him in a Goffs
army. He was only going to be run with Goffs anyway, but like, why, man? So yeah, Gaz needs some serious help, and for that reason, Makari is also down in poop tier with him. So gotcha. The reason for that is people they're teching to deal with wound caps. They have wound caps themselves, and there's just a lot of shooting armies, and like we can pretend to have the illusion that Gaz will counter shooting armies because it takes them 3 turns to kill them. But if it also takes Gaz 3 turns to reach the shooting army, then you threw 300 points in the trash can. So
just deploy him on the line and advance turn 1. It's not that hard. Who am I?
Surprisingly.
Dude, that was me going 3-3 with wagons and Gaz like all summer. So I'm good.
Y'all like my Tremble impression?
Well,
but no, I gotcha. So I'm not an orc player. Those are the things that I liked that I think are really fun that aren't in here. What did you leave on the cutting room floor that you wish you could have found the points for? What would you like to have made it in here that didn't quite fit?
A third rig, but that's just a lot of points. That's a 300 point.
Because you got to buy 10 more Snaggas for that too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. At that point, you're like slimming the pigs down and then cutting the whole trucker package. And I really like the truckers. I'd say the biggest thing is probably 10-man Mando squads. I really like them.
That's what I was looking for.
I like them for doing a bunch of damage, for getting in there early, but the problem is half the time you just go second and the whole unit dies and you threw 120 points in the trash can. I found that the 5-mans are a little bit better. You don't feel as bad using them for the tasks that you want to use commandos for, which is running in and beating up screening units. 5-man just does that basically just as well. For tagging things, for mucking the opponent up, for move blocking them. A lot of people have like pre-game moves, forward deployers right now. Throwing away 5 to 10 Mandos for screening that all out as opposed to 10 to 20 feels a lot better. They can also, if your opponent focuses on your Gretchen, be a backup like good bits getter, because they can still do the action. It just takes them a full turn to complete. But if you just have 5 of those guys hiding in ruin, your opponent overinvests into killing your Gretchen, all of a sudden your Mandos can just do the same good bits just on a delay instead. So I've been really liking the 5-man squads. I definitely get the appeal of the 10s, but they're just a little bit unwieldy, and there were multiple games in a row where they all just died without doing anything, and I kind of got sick of it.
There's also some missions too, right, where the Gretchen can't reach the midfield objective turn 1.
Yes.
So the Mandos are really... I've played against like people who've done 5-man Mandos with good bits, and that's really good, especially on like all those like Death and Zeal conversion deployments or like Data Scry. I think it's kind of, those are a little hard to get grots on turn 1.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, and those are the missions where good bits. The corner missions are the ones where good bits is actually a little bit iffy, just because you can't do it turn 1. So having 5 Mandos to just do that is really nice.
Well, luckily we only got 1 in the first 6 rounds. So
yeah.
Man, how cool would it be if they came out with like a Grot commando kit, like a bunch of sneaky gits that could forward deploy like ratlings?
That would be sick.
There's one other mission too that Good Bits is going to be really tough on, and that's Abandoned
Sanctuaries.
Yeah, what's your plan for that?
Depends on the army.
Depends what you're up against.
With Dawn of War, it's a little bit easier to do Green Tide, so that's pretty much a locked in 10. But I was probably going to take that anyway. Biggest and the best. I could take that or Assassinate. It really depends. It really just depends what my opponent's army is, right?
You could also just like default to banners, get a 5, maybe more.
I don't know, dude. I still think I would go Good Bits. Because, like, worst case scenario, I just blitz my whole army at them. They have to deal with all the orcs for a while. And, like, if they shoot at my 35 up Invul and Gretchen, cool, you denied my easy Good Bits access. I can still do it with other units in the army.
The pigs can do it, right?
Huh?
The pigs can do it because they're core, right?
Yes.
It's not infantry locked, it's core locked.
Pigs can, like, walk up behind a building and do it on turn 1 in 2 places if they really
That's
want
pretty
to.
funny.
It is very funny.
All right. Okay.
As we saw last night also, it's also just a really good end game objective.
Yeah.
Right? Did I roll over my opponent? Cool, I get points for it.
Yeah.
It
It can only get a 5 at the end of the game because every time you score it, you can only get a maximum of 5. But, like, 5 points at the end of the game as a consolation prize is really nice.
If you start it, is it 5 points per like phase or per turn?
I can read you the ruling.
I think it's when scored.
You guys see what I'm saying though? Where like it might be the case that if you started on turn 4 and it finishes top 5.
Yeah, like you could get like the Gretchen get 3 points here, and then the Commandos get 3 at the top of his turn. So he got like 6 across 2 different turns, basically.
To a maximum of 5 victory points per battle round.
Battle round. Okay,
Weird.
gotcha. So
at the end of the game, it's probably battle round 5?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can't go get like 9.
But also,
that
it
seems
kind of
reasonable.
hurts you if on turn 4 you do it with a unit that's going to take a full turn. Then on turn 5 you get those 3 in the command phase, and you can only get 2 more at the end of game.
Oh yeah, it is a little bit. Yeah, it is a little bit worse when I described it in that way.
You really want to hit it with the Grots on turn 4 if possible.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, I definitely cheated you then, Tyler. I have 1 less point in our game. Either way, we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the Orcs. I'm excited to play them.
Yeah,
they are really fun.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the new WOG at all. I know I've been talking for like 30 minutes now, so
Please,
it's
keep
very
talking.
interesting.
The new WOG gives
the
a
point
5
of the
up
show is
invul.
to talk about the lists.
The WOG gives a 5 up invuln on the first turn, which is sick. And then it also gives +1 strength, which is less important for Goffs, but it's still sick.
And then it gets a 6
there's a whole bunch of strength breakpoints that Goffs get to hit that you just won't really expect until they're randomly punching you with like strength 7 basic infantry guys, and you're like, what the frick? So yeah,
Strength 8 pigs, right? That's pretty good.
Strength 8 pigs, strength 7 snagas, strength 6 +1 to wound commandos,
Strength 9 power snapper.
Finally, all of the Goff claws actually hit the good breakpoint, because for a while they were just all strength 11, 13, and 15. And every time I would just be like 1 strength pip short of wounding on 2s, and I'd want to rip my hair out. But now we're at strength 12, 14, and 16, which is sick. So, yeah.
How much strength does the trucker boss have? Oh, he's not Goff, though.
Yeah, he's 6 doubled +1, so he's 13.
Unfortunate.
Just listening to Lucas list things that wound me on 3s.
Yeah, exactly. This is why the GSC matchup felt so funny. It was like, my whole army wounds on 3s for the whole entire game.
It's like, for how hard it is to play against GSC because of how many things you have to balance in your head, the fact that you're just like, the dice, real easy.
Yeah.
You just, what is it? It wounds on 3s. Cool.
Yeah. So, by the way, people, there's a lot of orc players who just don't know what their strength characteristic is. So if you end up playing against orcs and they're wounding you on some insane value, please ask them to tell you how they got to that value, because there's so many times that like orc players just use made up strength values, because admittedly it's very confusing to keep track of like Goffs the degrading strength characteristic, whether or not you charge, the WOG, and then the weapon strength. So there's like a whole bunch of stuff to keep in mind, but just like try to pay attention to that because it really matters.
Isn't the biggest thing that it follows like order of operations? So like it multiplies first with the power claw, and then you add the Goth charge bonus and the wall bonus after. Yeah, that's the biggest mistake that like I've made myself.
That's a big mistake. Another big mistake that I see people make all the time, even very good players who have tried out orcs, is just like with like the pigs and the rigs are the big thing because they have multiple different attack profiles. Some of them have fixed strength and some of them have strength based on the user's characteristic. The WOG adds to the characteristic. So the WOG strength bonus doesn't affect fixed strength weapons. So like the pig jaws and the snaggas on the side of the rig don't get affected by the WOG. So don't let your opponent cheat with that kind of stuff.
But they are affected by Goths, right? Because Goths says +1
Goths
strength.
adds 1 to the strength of melee attacks made by models when they charge. So no matter what it is, if it's a melee attack and I charged, I will get +1 strength. So if you're ever like, how did you end up to wounding me on 2s there? Ask your opponent to break that shit down if they're playing orcs.
Yeah. Don't just let them say lots and, wave their hands there.
Yeah. That bothers me to no end. When
orc players can't count. Do hold that against them.
Yes.
Something that's interesting here, a little bit of tech from John, I'll show it here, is he was saying something that he's done, or like recommends, is starting grots in the truck to disembark an extra 3 inches to get like good bits on some of those missions where it's hard to reach them.
Yep. Yeah, that strategy can work really well. I need to do the measurements on how many missions you can get onto a midfield with 8 inches as opposed to 5. I don't actually... Does it help on the corner missions?
It doesn't change at all.
It helps if you're trying to get to like the direct center, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Trying to go to the middle objective, sure. But you need to go 8.5 to get to the top left objective.
Yeah. I can also just get onto the middle with a 5-inch move normally, right?
No.
No.
Really?
Because it's 9 inches to the center minus 3.5, so you need to go 5 to get to the objective.
Okay, either way. So yeah.
That's why I start the old Forge Master sometimes close to the middle, so he can advance into the middle and advance in action turn 1.
Yeah. Sure. So yeah.
What action is the Forge Master doing on the center objective turn 1?
Banners, bro. He's planting a banner as the wagons swarm over beside him, and I'm like, all right, we're coming for you, dude.
You know what? Fair enough, dude. That's actually that's pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean, if they charge him, like they've killed everything in front of him, which is 1,900 points of my army. So yeah, if they're charging him turn 1, I think I lost the game. Here we go.
Owen is skeptical of the rigs.
Yeah, they're very spooky into shooting matchups. They're a little awkward. You pay a lot of points for advance and charge, but if they get to do the thing that they are, that you pay the points for, they're very good, right? Like if they get to just run in, do a bunch of mortals, shoot the flamer, and then charge in. There are a lot of matchups also where they are very solid. Like anyone who doesn't have a lot of dedicated anti-tank, like as you'll see in the bet rep, Tyler and I are going to commentate shortly. Armies like GSC, armies like Tyranids don't have anti-tank to go and kill the kill rigs. So they very often will get to just run roughshod over the opponent's entire army. And with the WA now, the kill rigs have a lot of attacks at multi-damage, strength 9 and 10, and they can just really smash some stuff.
And Ramshackle still exists.
They have Ramshackle as well. So into things like Bile, you can use them very aggressively to tie down units of Possessed and, to a lesser extent, Terminators, but Lamau, Bile Terminators. It's really the Possessed that are fun because you just swoop on into them, don't care about their strength buff, and then tell them to have their damage because it's Ramshackle, which is just hilarious.
Is your game plan into shooting armies? Like, are you still playing as brave as you were before, where you deploy everything out in the open in a forest? Or are you trying to hide a bit more because you have like that extra speed from the kill rigs advancing and charging?
That's what I'm not sure about. A lot of that depends on what the terrain on the board is like, if it can facilitate hiding or not. The other plan is I could just put all my stuff out and take my scoring secondaries and say, if you go first, you have to like put half your firepower into my, or not half your firepower, but you have to put a bunch of your firepower into like my commandos and my Gretchen, and then I get to actually hit you back. Or if you try to shoot my important stuff, then I can try to win the game on points. So you can still go with the very brazen deploy in the open style. I would do that, for instance, against Tau, just because there's no point in hiding against their really fun and wonderful redeploy game that they play. So yeah, I do that against Tau. I would go for a more defensive plan against something like Votan, because they are a lot less mobile, and they're also very scared of being tagged, wrapped, just generally socked in the face by orcs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would.
Yeah, they
I would be
don't
able,
have infinite range.
Exactly. Yeah, I would be able to hide, and I don't know if I'm able to hide, but I would deploy defensively against Votan, whereas against Tau, I would basically deploy on the line.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal. You kind of want to bait them in, the Votan.
Yep. Cool.
I know there's one minor change you didn't talk about with Tyler's list that I was interested. I know you were talking about changing out, I think it was like the 6s to wound and melee or additional AP for the extra pile in and consolidate.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you end up making that change?
Yes. So my sub faction here is a Myriad Cult, which is custom. The obvious ones are Industrial Affinity, ignore all hit and ballistic skill modifiers on the Indo weapons, and of course, Baby Transhuman army-wide. Then there's like a couple options for what you do with your last 2 points. One that's been growing in popularity a lot recently is just buying the 2-point advance and remain stationary for the purposes of shooting. That's really interesting. Basically what it does is it lets you advance and shoot demo charges. And like flamers and seismics. I have never in my life wished that I could advance and shoot a seismic cannon. That's just never happened. Advancing and shooting the Keller morph sounds okay, but it's mostly to advance and throw a demo. Which admittedly, when that unit pre-games 9, moves 14, and has a strat to auto-advance 6, I see the appeal of it. But in exchange, you're giving up 6-up Feel No Pains on all the bikers, which is a massive bummer. And you're also giving up that 4th pip, which in the past I had been taking as 6s to wound and melee are an extra AP, and I have recently changed out to +1 inch pile-in and consolidate, and I don't think it's better than those two things combined. The 6-up Feel No Pain on the bikers is one of the things that just makes them a little bit too durable against the right sorts of firepower. And that 4-inch pile console is so sweet. If you know how I play the game, oh my god. It's such a trip to be like, yeah, this unit's going to go over there. We're going to kill that. All right, we're going to go ahead and pile console 8. 8!
It's pretty good.
Woo! It's what's up, man. I was using that a whole lot in the game last night into Lucas, where we're like running around and move block and stuff and whatnot. It's real nice for that. It also gets dudes onto objectives in weird combats a little better. It does a lot of janky stuff like getting in and out of horror ranges better. It's so nice. So the 6s to wound are an extra AP in this list in melee seems absolutely terrible once I started thinking about what it actually does. Because it's just for the Pierce trains. They're the only melee unit in the army. If it happens anywhere else, that's an accident, and I generally don't care. And the Steelers basically fight once and then die. 8 games out of 10, maybe 7 games out of 10. And in those situations, they have 40 attacks. They hit on 2s. So at most, they're getting 32 hits. And then 6s. So a 6th of those. So on a good day, 6. So you're spending an entire quarter of your trait to have 6 attacks go from AP3 to AP4 at 1 damage over the course of a game. 6 attacks in total. What are you doing, my guy? And you're taking that instead of +1 pile console. Absolutely not. I could never. The movement is so nice. So that is my custom trait. Maybe I'll be convinced at some point to advance and remain stationary. It's definitely entertaining. But I will not be taking cold-blooded over Alien Fury, I think are the option. I don't know. I will not be taking the 6s or an extra AP. Even with the bikes moving to more of a melee unit, that +1 pile console is just too good for me to leave at home.
All right.
Nice. All right. So we are almost an hour and a half in. Let's move on to another topic. We've just talked about our LVO lists. Yes?
Yep. I'm feeling confident.
We have remaining to talk about Nick and my trip last weekend.
Yeah. We
Yes,
also have a few questions.
We need to talk about LVO goals. We have a couple of questions in the Discord. Which one of those do we want to tackle first?
Let's do goals first, and then questions, some of which will be about the trip.
Sure.
Yeah. The first question is about the trip, so we'll cover that there.
Exactly. So let's start.
All right,
Let's start with goals.
You had the first list up. Nick, tell us what your goals are for LVO. What are you hoping to go, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'd like to try to win every game that's in front of me. That's my goal showing up to the table, is try to figure out how I can win this. I'm also kind of in the back of my mind excited. This is kind of like more of like a goofy goal. I'm currently the #1 votan player in the world, which it's like, all right, little asterisk because the army's been out for like 3 months. If that, right? November, December. It will have been out for 3 months by the time LVO shows up. So it's like, all right. I think the second best votan player is also going, and we're within like 20 points of each other. So it'd be very fun to do well enough to secure that trophy if they're going to give out a trophy for that. I think that'd be really funny.
Better.
Other than that, yeah, I'm ultimately hoping to not like lose the games to like a stupid mistake, like a stupid reason. I'm totally fine losing a game to like my opponent playing better than me. Those are the best kind of games to play, where you just like show up and play a great game. And maybe you're like, all right, dude, like you played that better. That's awesome. Obviously, like going positive is great. 4-2, 5-1, 6-0. But my experience at tournaments this year, like winning a few of them, there are moments where you're like 4-0 and you're like, okay, who's my top table matchup? Or you're like 3-0 and you're like, who am I playing game 1 tomorrow? And you look at like the 8 people you could play, or like the 12 people you could play, and you're like, I could beat 10 of them. The other 2 are real sketch. There's a little bit of luck involved in pairings. You don't get to choose your pairings. It's random pairing. I know there used to be like submarining and all that bullshit. So you don't get to fix anything like that. You just see what you play and try to do the best you can. And since we're playing like singles, chances are you might run into a list that counters you quite well, which puts you at a detriment. So obviously, like, yeah, it'd be sick to make top 8. It'd be sick to get to play in the shadow round. But I'm not going in like I'm going to be disappointed if that doesn't happen, because at the end of the day, you got to get a little bit lucky. That's what I've learned this year. It's my biggest takeaway from singles in 40K. You bring what you can, you play the best you can, roll a little hot, and there you go. But yeah, so going positive, goal #1, goal #2, taking home the best in faction votan trophy. And I guess overall goal, don't lose to doing something stupid.
Very nice.
Read grudge match all the way through. There we go.
For the record, listeners, that this would be the first time that any person on a podcast by the name of Best in Faction has won a Best in Faction trophy.
Really?
It's never happened before. So
dang, dude.
Would be quite hype. I just checked. It looks like you got to beat Shane Watts by like 15 points in Vegas to or not lose to him by 15
I'm like 15
points.
ahead of him right now, right?
You're like 30 ahead of him,
Gotcha.
But your #4 event is 15 ahead of his.
Gotcha.
So when those get dropped, you'll be 15 ahead of him. So see what you can do. I'm excited.
Yeah, the worst timeline is going like 5-0 and then losing the last round, and like someone else like maybe loses early and then slams their next rounds, and I like get plummeted back down. That's the worst timeline.
Yeah,
but let's try to avoid that one.
Losing in round 6, definitely the worst timeline. Couldn't be me. For those of y'all who have not been with us the whole time and want a little bit of a history lesson on what happened at Lucas and I's first LVO last year, Lucas went in with that Goth list we were talking about. I went in with the Forces of the Hive Mind list that McDougal, Lennon, and I had come up with. That Lennon chickened out of last second and played Custodes instead and lost round 1. Get fucked, Lennon. You deserve that.
Oof.
Lucas and I both went 5-0 in our first 5 games, and then paired round 6. Lucas ended up defeating me, which began the curse of never beating Lucas in a tournament literally ever for the rest of my life. There's obviously not a whole lot of like. If I had gone 4-2 last year, it'd be really easy to say I want to do better than last year. My goal is 5-1. But I think it's quite ambitious to say I want to do better than last year. My goal is 6-0, especially when LVO has gotten a lot harder this year than it was last year by my count. There's a lot more foreigners showing up who really know what they're doing, and in general, the scene has just progressed a lot. And last year, I think I was playing the best list at the event. I maintain that. Like, at me if you want. I think that my variation was better than McDougal's, and I think that Forces list was better than Custodes. Personal opinion. Anyway, and I don't feel like I have that level of meta advantage this year. I think that GSC absolutely have what it takes to roll with the punches and take on the best of them, but it's not like I need to be the one that shows up more than the list does. So I would say that my goal this year would be basically to repeat. If I could go 5-1, that would be very hype. Don't really care where that 1 is. Was nice to lose in round 6. Would like to not play a team kill this time, please. But I can't really control that. But my more important goal, I'm not eligible for Best in Faction GSC in the ITC this year, as I basically only took them to Slaanemismus, which I went 4-2 at, and then this. So that's not even in contention. But obviously, I would be eligible to be Best in Faction GSC at the event. I think someone had checked earlier. There's 16 GSC players there, and I would certainly like to do better than the other 15 of them. And given that Innis is playing Kraken, that seems very possible. So that's my primary goal, is Best GSC. And then after that, I would love to go 5-1. And yeah, like Nick said, I think more than anything, I want to not walk away from any games embarrassed. I want to play tight. I want to play clean. I want to finish every game. I'm playing all 6 games on a clock, at least 6 games on a clock. I want to get through 5 battle rounds every time and not clock out. I will give myself 1 clock out. If I clock out once over the course of 6 games, that's fine. No. Because I can clock out and win. It's a super normal thing. But if I clock out 2 times over 6 games, I will be very, very upset with myself. And we're going to do some serious clock boot camping this week to make sure that we're getting it done. But I think that's where I'm sitting at goals-wise. Best GSC, would love to go 5-1. Don't clock out more than once.
We need some sort of bet. What happens if you clock out twice? What are you going to do?
If I clock out twice? Oh, man. If I clock out twice at LVO, how about for the rest of 9th edition? Whenever I'm playing on a clock, I have to play down 5 minutes.
It's a little boring. We'll think of something. It's a little boring.
All right. If you've got... okay.
Maybe you have to play a faction of the Discord's choice at a GT in the new year.
That's totally doable. Absolutely. We'll
get Colby on the line. We'll paint it in like 2 hours. We'll be good to go.
I'm sure Colby will make it something incredibly cringy version of the thing. Whatever it is, it's going to have anime titties, and I really don't want to do that.
How about that? How's that bet? You heard it here first, listeners. Maybe we'll change it later, but that's.
I like that bet.
That sounds pretty good. All right, we'll see what I can do there. All right. What about you, Lucas? I assume you're trying to, move up in the world, improve from your unimpressive last year, and actually win the damn Shadow Round this time.
In an ideal world, yes, but I think that's very unlikely. I think, like you guys are saying, the meta has gotten even more lethal over the course of the last year. There's also a lot of shooting armies right now, which orcs tend to not like. So I'm feeling a little bit worse about my prospects than I was last year. There's also a lot of hard counters, so to say. For instance, I feel incredibly spooked by Chaos Knights. So my army number 2 coming in to counter army number 1. So definitely feeling scared by some counters. My goals, therefore, are relatively modest this year. I would love to go 5-1. I am going into it thinking that 4-2 is pretty likely. So I definitely might just go 4-2 if some people go first and shoot me in my DZ and I die. That's definitely something that can always happen. But yeah, My goal is 5-1. I also, like you guys, don't run it loose to anything dumb. Just like a massive dice spike that I can't help. Although obviously I can't, control that. Or more importantly, me just making a massive blunder that gets me, earns me a loss, because I have been known to do that before. I did that at Slanesh. So yeah, definitely stretch goal 5-1.
All right.
Sounds good. You guys want to start rocking and rolling with some of these here questions?
We got 5
By
questions.
the way, to finish the story for those of y'all who didn't see LVO last year, Lucas did end up losing the shadow round to Anthony Vanilla. Lucas, you actually have one goal that is really important that I need you to accomplish.
What is
that you need to fucking eat.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We're gonna go on a grocery shopping trip. Like,
What,
maybe
Thursday
we could go on
night at 10 p.m.?
Wednesday. No, dude, we can bring some stuff on the plane, man. Like, protein bars and shit.
Can you bring food on a plane?
Yeah,
Yes.
as long as it's not like
liquids.
yeah, you can, yeah.
Especially because also we got checked bags because we're flying Southwest. So like,
Can
we
you bring
take
like
literally anything.
fruit?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
just not into the state of Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
We're fine.
Yeah,
cool.
So let's
Yeah,
do that.
Wednesday
Wednesday
night-
night, we're going to the
Wednesday night
grocery
grocery
store.
shopping.
We're making Lucas like a meal backpack. Actually, we should do that for all of us, honestly.
Yeah, bring
Wait,
bring
well,
sandwiches and stuff.
on the down low, it's gonna be food we purchase inside the event. Whoops.
Do they have that rule?
You're allowed to bring your own food and eat it outside the hall.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, there you go.
You're just not allowed to bring it, which is fine. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I mean, honestly, this kind of transition into one of the questions that we had in the Discord. So I'm just gonna pop.
Yeah, I
up.
guess we start with that one.
Yeah, let's see. Someone asked me. Tim the Sorcerer asks, my question for Lucas: what is your meal prep plan for LVO? Well, you heard it here, Tim. We're gonna go grocery shopping, and these adults are gonna force me to buy food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He will
maybe
be
like-
bringing at least one can of beans. That will happen though.
I will.
You know what though? I really, really, really want to see a security guard ask you to leave while you're eating a can of beans in the hall.
Can we make another bet? If Lucas wins the shadow round, can he crack open the can of beans on stream and eat it?
Oh, dude, I don't think that's a bet. I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah.
Can you, like, just
if
drink
if you
the
get on
bean
stream if you get on stream at any point in time, just whip out the can of beans, crack it open on stream, and leave it on the table, and like see if they get mad. They as in the stream people. Like your opponent won't care. There's my beverage. I've just got. It's so fucking good.
Seems pretty funny if you won the shadow round, though.
Oh, God.
Just like shotgun the bean can, dude.
The
Let's go.
power of beans compels me.
Shotgun the bean can.
All right.
Anyways, TSA, what's this? Lucas, beans.
I don't know if you can bring a can opener on a plane, though.
You definitely can. You can put it in a check bag.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
We're fine.
Never had check bags before, like since I was like 12.
I was gonna call y'all peasants, but Southwest is the cheapest airline, so y'all are just missing out. Anyway,
Let's see.
I like Alaska, dude, where they forced me to check my bag for free because they don't have enough room on the plane.
I'd love to see it.
All right. So we have one other question from the Discord. Actually, never mind. It's Sam asking 4 questions because he's a G.
Yep.
What learning experiences and practice and analysis were... What did you learn from Anthony and TJ, basically? Okay, so we'll talk about that after questions. So Anthony and TJ recap is still incoming.
Quick
Question.
pause. I need to acknowledge what Colby has said in the chat here because
Yes.
I didn't notice it at first. He says, "I'll be merciless, Tyler. I'll print a whole army of guys checking their watches."
That's good.
What the
Okay.
clock digs
All
are
right,
amazing.
hit me with the Sam questions. What do we got?
Sam asks, at LVO, you're bound to face an army list that's unique and something you've never played before. What are your steps in such a game?
Fantastic question.
Yep.
Who do we want to start?
I think I can go first. The important thing is in a matchup where you're unprepared or you don't really know exactly what they're trying to do. Once they've picked their secondaries and you've deployed everything, do a quick 30-second. If roughly nothing changes in the game, where's our points projection? And try to do that 30-second recalculation at the start of every battle round. And that can really help inform how aggressive you need to be, how defensive you need to be, whether or not you need to take risks, whether or not you don't need to take risks. So just doing a little bit of a points projection and kind of thinking, if roughly nothing changes, obviously it's a dice game. Things can change very quickly and the points projection can change. So reevaluate at the start of every battle round. But just think about where the points are going, and that can inform all of the choices you need to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be that's the first thing I do whenever I hit a matchup that I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah. To your points, the thing that I would add to this is be ready with what questions you need to ask. Every army and every player has a different set of things that they need to know about, and you need to figure out what it is that your army is scared of to avoid gotchas, because no one wants to be doing gotchas, and a lot of people, especially if you're like, we know most of the armies that are out there, but if you're going into this and there's a lot of armies that you don't have a lot of reps into, there are things that people might assume everyone knows about, but they don't. Like if you're playing into Blood Angels, Sanguinary Guard have a 6-inch heroic intervention stratagem. That's a really big deal. And they might think that, everyone knows that. Of course, it's Blood Angels. But if you're someone like me who really likes to stand very close to the opponent while not hitting them, to steal objectives, to move block, to do stuff like that, hey, do you have any heroic intervention shenanigans? Is a question that I have to ask every single game. Now I can turn it off because I'm GSC, which is magical. But even so, if I want to turn it off, I have to know that it's there. So I ask about heroic intervention shenanigans. I ask about sniping. That's such a big deal that people forget about. If you're playing into Votan, they might have that dude that Nick has that I don't hear people talk about him almost ever, but he absolutely snipes like a motherfucker. If you're playing a Orcs list, they might have weird snipers. Eldar have snipers, stuff like that. If you're doing psychic stuff, know about denies. With my old list, with the forces, with the double cover behemoth, hey, what do you have that ignores cover? How does it ignore cover? Is it light cover? Is it all cover? Stuff like that. Do you have anything that does infiltrators is a big thing for me. Do you have ways to fall back, shoot, and charge? Figure out the questions that matter to you and ask them of your opponent, because the sooner you have that information, the quicker you can plan about and around it, as opposed to getting left out in the cold when suddenly you're in an awkward situation you didn't know that someone could do something.
Yeah, I like that. Because as much as like Wahapedia or like the GW app's very helpful, unless you know what you're looking for, like it's gonna have all these goofy names, like like the clock strikes twice or something. You're like, what does that mean? And it's like, oh, heroic 3. Like you're not gonna know the names of it unless you like have been looking a lot. And like I've learned a ton over this year by just practicing and experiencing it firsthand. So yeah, that's a good perspective. Like not having any idea. Definitely ask what you're scared of. For me, how I was going to answer this question, when I go into like an unfamiliar matchup or like a list that's unique, I try to search for familiarity. I know that's not super helpful for someone who's like maybe playing against like a certain archetype for the first time. But like at this point, if I'm running into something that I'm like, what is going on? I try to identify like, okay, how is this similar to other armies I played against? Like, do they have a lot of guns? Do they have a lot of psychers? Do they have a lot of melee? Like what kind of strats do they have? Like what are they valuing here? And just kind of building my like initial game plan based off of like, okay, here's how I beat like a fast melee army with a lot of characters. Okay, I'm going to deploy similarly to that. I'm going to take secondaries similarly to that, because like and I mean maybe I'm wrong with this, but I assume that most people will kind of default to those similar play styles because that's just like the strengths of their army. Like I'll plan around like, yeah, you're going to play the strengths of your army. And sometimes they do weird stuff. Like, Tyler does weird stuff all the time. He's like, yeah, here's my Reaper. Not going to charge with it though. And I'm like, all right, that's weird. So they might do things to surprise you. And that's where you then kind of like adapt to your game plan. But I find that like when like you need to deploy your terrain, you need to pick your secondaries. Don't like just sit there and have like decision paralysis. That's a big issue that I'll have sometimes. Identify familiarity and then build your plan from there and then adapt as needed.
Also, like this can be difficult to do. I definitely agree, Nick. And one of the things that I like doing, kind of building off that, is look for similarity, but also look for weakness in your opponent's army. This can be difficult to do when you don't actually know like all their stat lines and what the units do. But if you've never played against something like Blood Angels, because that was the example that was used by Tyler. If you've never seen something like Blood Angels, you can be kind of overwhelmed by the fact that they're super fast and they hit super hard and they can put a lot of pressure on you really quickly. But if you identify their weakness, 0 guns, you can, kind of play into that a little bit more heavily. Or something like Tau. Tau is something that I have endlessly bitched about. But at the same time, they do have weaknesses. They have 0 melee, and even more importantly, their list is super lean. There's no fat. So if you cut out like their 20 Kroot and their 4 Kroot Hounds right away, they're left with 2 planes and 2 units. And that's basically it. Sorry, 3 units, because there's 2 Riptides and a Crisis unit. So it's like if you can simplify the game down to like you have your 2 units and I have all this stuff, then this is definitely something that's very winnable. So try to look for the thing your opponent's army can't do and then exploit that.
That's good. All right.
Okay, that was part 2 of Sam's question. Part 3 is, how important do you feel it is to look at lists submitted to an event beforehand? Any of you guys want to go first?
Like once lists unlock, to go through and read what everyone else is playing.
I don't think it's that important, in my humble opinion. I find it very fun, and I love doing it, especially like hanging out with the guys, in Tyler's basement late in the evening, right before a tournament, and we're all just like hanging out, looking at lists and thinking like, oh, what would you do about this? What would you do about that? Like, all that kind of stuff. Super duper fun. Yeah. But I honestly don't believe like it improves your odds of winning the tournament. I don't think that's actually prep. I think if you wanted to, if your goal was to just like prepare for a tournament, you should play a rep instead rather than look through lists, because there's hundreds of people coming. The likelihood that you hit any of the lists you actually look at and deep dive into is very low.
It is.
Sorry, go ahead.
It is. I think I agree with Lucas. I think it is the best way to spend the drive up to the event. If it's going to be like a 1 or 2 hour drive, that is so much fun.
Yeah.
But I think it is more important to look for larger trends in what factions are showing up than it is to look at any list in particular and say, okay, at LVO, the biggest represented factions are Tyranids, Tau, and both flavors of Knights, right? And then Votan, right? Those are the top factions by representation last time I checked.
Votan's not super high, but it could be
Votan is as popular as at LVO.
As popular as what?
Nids. There are 52 Votan players coming to Vegas. Yeah. So like that is the thing that you wouldn't know if you don't look at the data. That's really helpful. If you're thinking, oh, Votan is just a thing that's out there that no one plays, especially because it's very unpopular outside the States, and you walk in and you play Votan 3 times, you're going to feel real bad about it. So make sure you're ready for Votan. But looking into, Nicholas Olsen-Johnson isn't taking... what was the thing you were thinking about taking? He isn't taking the Ignore or Auras thing, so my Tyrants are probably fine. Whereas, by contrast, Shane Watts is, and I don't know if Shane Watts is. And, like that's not helpful necessarily. That's prep that usually happens at the table once you know your pairings. And if you can lull yourself into a false sense of security if you feel like you understand the specifics of lists, as opposed to being ready for generalist factions. What do you got, Nick?
Deep dive into your opponent's list once you get to the table with them. One of my favorite parts of the game is explaining everything my list can do to my opponent, so nothing is unclear. There's no gotchas. They always know what my stuff does. Hopefully, I mean, obviously, there's no way to be completely flawless with that kind of thing. And then doing the same with my opponent, where like I'll even if they try to say, "Oh, I've got this, this, and this, and let's start playing," I'll be like, "No, you need to tell me what every unit in your army does, every upgrade it has, every warlord trait, and every relic, and I will ask you questions." That pregame talk is super important and can help shore up, not investing a ton of time before the tournament, like in the week preceding looking at lists.
Yep. For me, I'd say the smaller the tournament, the more useful it is. Like if you're going to like a 30-person tournament, like you can easily read everyone's lists, which like then when you get to the table, like if you want to go crazy, you could develop a game plan, right? What are my secondaries in every list here? And that's very easy at a small tournament. It's impossible at LVO. You go insane at like lists, like 100. I'd probably go insane at list 52, So I agree with that. I don't think it's that useful in like a bigger event. I think the best kind of prep is honestly, looking at the trends leading up to a big event. If you're going to a big major, like a GW Open or like a big UK event or, a big FLG event, you should have been reading like the meta lists the month coming up to this, and then you like before you submit your list, what's out there. That's more useful. Yeah, that's what I got to say.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I will say that I think if there is a time to be like, let me look at the list in particular, it's at that medium-sized major where you know who's good.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, okay, I'm looking to win this event of 60 to 100 people. There are a dozen people that I think could give me a run for my money. I know who they are. They're my local people. Let me make sure I study up on what they're running, right? If we're playing up at Birds, I know what Lucas is playing. I know what Nick is playing. I know what Tanner is playing if he's going to be there. I know what Trimble's playing. I know what Hank is playing. I know what Colin is playing. Those are important things to know. I know what Zach is playing. And if I didn't list your name there, it's not because I don't think you're great. I'm sure you're a fantastic player. It's just hard on air. But that's worthwhile. At LVO, do I know who the top 20 or 30 people are who are going to be there? Probably. Is reading their list going to help me that much? Probably not.
Yeah.
David Gaylord would probably pin me up against a wall and, feed me my own testicles. So I'm not that concerned about knowing how to beat his list in particular.
For me, I know this isn't prior to an event. What's most helpful to me is those, like, when you get the pairings at lunch, like, sitting down with your pod of friends and being like, yo, guys, I'm a little, like, sketched about this matchup. Like, what 3 secondaries do you think I take? Here's my idea. I really appreciate doing that with, like, you guys. That's really helpful.
Lunch
it's really helpful, and it's also really
fun. Pairing. Yeah. That's the best part.
Too bad we never get the night before pairings.
You get them in Vegas.
Oh, well, there you go. That's cool.
Do you really?
Didn't we? Yeah, because we were spent all night the night before talking about how to beat Beasts of Nurgle.
Oh, you mean for day 2? Gotcha.
For day 2, yeah, not for day 1. No. This is not a UKCC event.
This is not England where things are run intelligently. Sorry,
we assume that a ton of people are going to drop out. No, it's not.
Needlessly mean. But yeah, I would vastly prefer to have pairings more available. But obviously, check-ins are a thing. Anyway.
Yeah,
all right.
Something else to go with that. We're going to try to film a lot more like lifestyle content associated with LVO this year. We're going to try to put together a bunch of little travel vloggy kind of things, and hopefully we'll have bits and pieces of these kind of discussions at lunches, at nights befores. We'll see. I don't make any promises here because I'm not sure how it's all going to work out, but the hope is to put something together. So those of y'all who are living through us vicariously at home who couldn't make it to Vegas this year will get some of the Vegas
all right.
fun.
Well, as long as you're in charge of it. Sounds good.
All right. What else?
Sam also asks LVO draft when. I think that's not going to be a thing.
All right, Nick first, Lucas second, Tyler third. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Never mind.
5 players each. Go. And you
no, that's what I was saying. That's my prediction. Top 3. I'm done.
Oh, that's your top 3?
Your draft. Yeah. He's just telling who's going to win the tournament.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's do a really quick one.
Rapid fire draft.
Rapid fire draft. We each get ourselves, and you get 4 people. And you're not allowed to look anything up, so it's got to be off memory. If they don't go to Vegas because you didn't remember who's going to Vegas, too bad.
Depending on how well they do, you get points.
Yeah.
Can we write this somewhere? Can we start a slide?
Oh God.
I don't think I. Yeah, I can do. I think there's. No,
we did that for the draft.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds, and I can make that happen.
For sure. So yeah,
Tyler,
basically the way this is going to work is we'll just go round robin and draft the various players that are coming to LVO in effort to build the strongest team.
All right.
Yeah, none of us have given this any thought, so it's going to be very haggard.
Literally 0 thought. I am okay. That looks good. LVO draft. We get to start with ourselves, and then we will share screen, window, Jamboard. All right. Oh snap! Where's my pen? I can use my finger. That's fine. All right. Here we go. So we've got team Nick. I know how to spell your name.
You
team
better.
Lucas and team Tyler. We start with ourselves. All right.
Roll the K from Nick's name.
All right. Roll die. 1-2 is Nick. 3-4 is Lucas. 5-6 is Tyler. And we'll just wrap around clockwise. 1. All right, Nick, you're going first. We're getting 4 people.
Roll, or is that just how it is?
I did you not see on the screen? Roll the dice.
Okay, I didn't know if it just like loaded up as a 1. All right. So we
matter.
pick just someone who's going.
If you want me to re-roll, I'll re-roll. We're re-rolling.
Guys,
No,
this
see,
doesn't
it's
matter.
different every
Nick, just
time.
pick a dude.
All right, Nick, you're going first.
All right. It's a little of a lame answer. We're trying to base like people who are doing well or something. Who we think's gonna do well.
Yeah. The better they do at LVO, the better. We'll do it exactly the way they do. So it'll be win-loss total of the 3 people in general.
All right. Lame answer, but he's number 1 of the ITC, so I gotta go with BIFPOD, dude.
He's taking Vic. Lucas, my boy, who's it gonna be?
You know him, you love him. I got to go with my boy Max Schwartzer.
Let's go, dude.
That's my boy. He's on my team, bitches.
That should not be a 2. That should be a 1. I'm just bad at.
You missed out, Nick. On the heaviest
dude.
hitter of the whole
He was my
team.
sleeper pick. I thought you were gonna pick yourself.
The boy Max.
You already get yourself.
Who's Tyler picking? John and
All
Gunny.
right. I mean, yeah. I'll take my boy. All right.
You fool.
Who's next, Nick?
I gotta go with
take John
Anthony,
Lennon,
dude.
For those of y'all who can't see, he's taken violence on Emperor's Children. Lucas.
I'm
after
bringing the
you're
boys. I'm bringing Leland Rill, baby.
Let's go.
You did not just pick Leland Rill.
You did though.
Yes, I did. Did you hear me? Did I stutter?
All right. Number 2, I'll take. I really believe in Tyranids. I'll take Innis. All right, Nick.
Well, I'm taking the best orc player of the event, so I'm taking Lucas.
Lucas is already on Lucas.
Wait, you can't. Oh, that's stupid. Oh, all right. I guess I got to go with the second best orc player then, Brian Sepp or whatever, the Scottish guy.
All right, sounds
S-E-I.
good. Lucas.
Yeah, I think he's got an eye. On there.
SEIP. Oh, it's not. Is it 2 P's?
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, cool. Lucas, what do you got?
I'm gonna take Alex Pena.
Let's go, dude.
I'm drafting the lads.
All right, and I'll take. Do I take? I don't even know if Hackett is coming. I assume he's not. So I'll
think
go.
so.
I'll take Gaylord. That sounds good to me.
Oh my god,
All right,
you guys' teams suck ass.
All right, I got to go with the number 1 who supported me throughout this entire year. I'm gonna go with Colby Hopkins.
Oh damn! Okay.
All right, Lucas.
Nick's team is Vic Vijay, Anthony, Brian Steve, and Colby Hawkins. Let's go, dude. Okay. Oh my god. I'm gonna go with assistant extraordinaire Ryan Cherowick.
There is one sleeper we forgot, dude. Let's see if Tyler remembers.
All right, who's the sleeper pick?
Tanner Herbert.
Oh, dude.
He's not coming.
If only
If we get a 5th pick, I'm picking him, dude. Can we get a 5th pick?
Yeah, we could have a 5th pick.
draft someone who isn't coming.
Ian's not coming. Who's?
True. Oh, unlucky.
What homie has not been picked yet? Oh, the boy Jeremiah.
That's pretty good.
True, dude. Get the
All right,
Marla
Nick, hit me
twins
with
in
your number
there.
5.
My number 5, dude, is the one who made Lucas switch from Chaos Knights. Harry.
Harry, no! Oh,
dude,
I
that was my
got
number
sniped.
5.
Such a good
Damn
pick.
it.
Such a
Okay.
good pick.
Who else? My brain is completely shut off. Who else among the boys is coming?
Just take like Tom Ogden or something.
No, I'm gonna take Enrique.
Enrique!
Is he coming?
Capina from Portland, baby. That's my boy.
All right.
Oh my god, my
Don't
team
tell
has
me.
3 Death Guard players. Guys, it's over. I lost.
Really? That's why you think you
Oh,
lost,
no.
because you have multiple Death Guard players?
Yeah, obviously my team is stronger. It's just a faction issue.
Well, you don't have the number 1 Death Guard player, unfortunately.
Oh, yikes.
Who?
Yeah.
Oh, Young Trimble?
Yeah. The
Did
Stink
he
Lord
get
Supreme.
there? I don't know if he ever got there. I
Yeah,
know he
probably
was
will
out
after
there.
LVO.
Years? His competition is playing Plaguebear Scrawlers. Of course he's number 1.
Death Guard right now in the ITC is still led by Aidan Smalley of Team Scotland. He's a full 40 points ahead. Yeah. I don't think he's coming to Vegas though. So I will go with, for my number 5. I'll take Jack.
There we go.
Oh yeah, he's still on the table.
Yeah, he is. I'll make sure to DM him and tell him that he got picked 15th and give no other context.
Okay, so we got to go through our teams here. Let's start with the weakest team, Tyler.
Obviously.
Yes. Go ahead. Who's on your team, Tyler?
I've got John Lennon. I've got Ennis Wilson. I've got David Gaylord. I've got Jeremiah Bergdale, and I've got Jack Harpster.
And then Nick, a team that might, if he's lucky, if his team wakes up and they've all had the best day they've ever going to have in their lives, might rival mine for skill.
Might win the LVO, but also I guess might beat Lucas's team.
So we got the team. The issue here I'm seeing, there's a little bit of a leadership issue. I don't know between Vic or Violence who's going to be in charge. I know they got
Obviously,
a little
Harry's
bit
in
of
charge.
bad rhino blood between them.
And Colby's in charge.
We got Brian and Colby though. I'm sure they're gonna be chill and like bring us, some good games. And then we got Harry, who's the ringer.
We got the ace. Absolutely,
he's the ace in the hole, dude.
The real question for how
the only downside is if Harry runs into Vic, that might just like destroy my entire
oh yeah, then I mean, dude, and especially because Vic is going to do real well otherwise. So holding him down to a 5-1 in Harry's way, that's a bummer.
We got to avoid the team kills here, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my god. All right, yeah, and then I of course have drafted team perfection. I've got Max, Leland, Alex, Ryan, and Enrique. Let's fucking go.
Is Enrique going?
I don't even. Ryan and Alex both play Sisters in Death Guard, and that's it. So like something bad's gonna happen there because Enrique only plays Death Guard. I think Ryan might be playing World Eaters before they come out, guys. Is that okay with y'all?
That's fine with me.
Yeah,
Let's
no
go.
problem with me at all. All right, so Lucas's team wins if they go positive.
What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? My team are
Enrique's
gangsters, man.
The good thing about my team is if we ever run out of models, we got Colby right there for us.
Fair enough.
If anyone loses or breaks something, he's a master of all, dude. Jack of all trades.
Fair enough.
He's also got the constant edible supply. Let's go.
I think it would have been actually really fun to do a version of this draft where like you had like not number of players but like a number of points to go around, and like homies were worth fewer points, and Vic Vijay was worth a lot of points. And that would have been an interesting game to build out. But we're not doing that. We're playing it this way. We're memeing it up. Good stuff. Is that all the questions we've got, or is there more?
There was one. I don't want to take too long though because we're already talking for a while. It was mostly about our practice weekend.
Yeah, you guys talk about that as much or as little as you want. Go for it. People want to hear. They had to listen through the draft before they get to the good stuff.
All right. So, what learning experiences in practice and analysis were done, or in how they were done, did you gather from Anthony and TJ? So, what did anything unique from the practice weekend, Lucas, that you found especially helpful?
Yeah, just that AOC is super tough. My original list had 10 truck boys in it, and that was definitely not the right list. Needed to transition to Mega Knobs to give a little bit extra punching power. So yeah, definitely being aware of AOC and that it, this being its last ride, there is going to be some people there spamming like Possessed and Terminators and Marines and that kind of thing. So definitely needed to adjust the list. And also take into account that a lot of AOC armies don't have amazing secondaries, and that I can kind of leverage my secondary game plan into them. So yeah, it was really fun to go over there. We basically played only AOC the whole weekend. I think I played 6 games, Blood Angels, like 3 CSM, and 2 T-Suns Flamers. So it was a whole bunch of Terminators and 2-up armors and that kind of thing. And I held my own for the most part, which was really fun. Yeah, lessons learned were don't fixate on now that I have a good game plan to score a bunch of points. I don't need to fixate on dealing crippling damage to my opponent just on the killing wars. I can kind of like use my units to do a little bit of killing, but also just like delay the opponent from getting to my Gretchen, especially because armies like Blood Angels and CSM don't have the most shooting in the world. So they won't be able to kill my Gretchen. So that is one lesson I learned. Another lesson I learned is that AOC armies can, in some instances, be a little bit on the squishier side in terms of just like you hit them with your entire army, they only get one interrupt. Obviously, Emperor's Children are a little bit different, and that matchup is its own pit of hell. But yeah, for a lot of AOC armies, they you hit them in 6 places, they interrupt in 1 place, and they kill your unit, but then you still get to hit them in a lot of places. That is something I've had to learn as I've kind of figured out how to play around interrupts. Is throwing 1 unit into 1 unit is great. Throwing 2 units into 2 different units is bad because you kill a unit and then they interrupt. But from every point thereafter, every other unit you throw into the enemy is like points in your favor, like because you'll just get to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. So in terms of like number of units making contact from the enemy, if we like think about it as a chart, 1 is really good, 2 takes a real big step downward, and then from that point it just like linearly goes up from there, where like the more units you throw in, the more damage you can do. So I definitely kind of learned that well. That was the Bile matchup was where I really learned that, because Anthony went first and crammed his whole army into the middle on the Scouring. And I just said, I bet. And I charged him in like 10 places. And yeah, the final death was really scary, but managed to pull that out just by getting all the killing done in the first 2 turns so I could score in the later half of the game.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely learned a lot from that weekend. Not feeling overly confident into all of those armies, but now at least I feel like I have a game plan. And now that I've played it a couple times, especially on some of the missions that are like a little bit sus for orcs, like Abandoned Sanctuary. Obviously, Scouring is actually very good for our secondary plan, but both Conversion and Abandoned Sanctuaries have a couple things going for them that just like, obviously Abandoned Sanctuaries turns off commandos and it's difficult to get the good bits and that kind of thing. Conversion, same kind of deal. But still managed to pull out some wins in close games on those missions.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I found it helpful for me because I basically got to practice like all of my hard matchups in one condensed weekend. Something I really enjoy with practice is when playing a practice game, talking through things with your opponent. Like sometimes like just sitting down and playing a game is great, and then afterwards being like, okay, what could we have done better? But I also like, the deep diving in like, okay, do we think this is stupid? Like, you don't want to go too much into like take back everything, because there's never like a perfect game of 40k. But if you like do something 2 seconds into the game and your opponent's like, well, I do this, and like you lose, it's like, okay, well, let's do this instead. Having like a few minds looking at a table is super helpful as well. We tried to crack the T-Sun's Flamer matchup, which like I never won that one, but I definitely went from losing by 70 to losing by 60 to losing by 20. So I feel pretty good about that. Every other matchup, we basically tried to like put myself in like a tough situation, which was like, okay, we'll like play a few turns of like you going first with this, and like you got it figured out. Cool. What about the opposite though, where you go second? What about where you go second, where they get the defender drop on like a close mission? Because a lot of the scary games are going to probably be day 2, right? That's when you're 3-0, that's when you're 4-0, etc. And like Conversion, Scouring, those are going to be the toughest games if you're trying to go for a perfect run. I mean, obviously you could run into, Harry on like Data Scry Salvage, round 3, and that might be one of the toughest games that you have at the tournament. But chances are the tougher games come later. So it was a lot of me just getting like rammed into my DZ, and like, because pressure, a lot of the times with pressure is just like you make one mistake allocating resources, and then you get like your other flank collapses or something like that. It's like, okay, so this goes there next time. Good. So figuring out kind of like the general profiles, like how do I assign things? How do I not panic into pressure from the master of pressure himself, Mr. Violence, was a very, very helpful weekend. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that. Not a kind of practice that I could get from around here. So it was interesting though, seeing some similarities in like analysis. I'm like, oh, this is like kind of stuff that like, Lucas and Tyler are doing, like Tanner and I have done before, like kind of like the breaking down the matchup from both sides, or having like a third party come in and weigh in on like the state of the board. That's something that like we've done before, and find it incredibly useful. So yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to bring up from this weekend was just like a general discussion about the idea of, what a practice game entails and how that can be different for different groups of people or in different, circumstances. What I mean by this is when we were driving, thank you to Anthony, by the way, for picking us up from the airport and driving us. Very kind of you. While we were driving to his place from the airport, we were having a discussion about what kind of practice games we were going to be playing. And I forget who it was, but one of the two of the East Coast guys said something along the lines of, I hope you guys are ready to like play a lot of games because we're going to get you guys on, we're going to be re-racking a lot. We're going to be playing through different scenarios. We're going to be trying to crack matchups. And that's basically the way we like to practice. And both Nick and I were kind of like, yeah, sounds good. That seems fun. And I don't know did you have that experience at all, Nick? Was that something you guys were doing a lot in your games over the weekend? Because I did not have that experience. I basically played 6 games from start to finish, other than the Blood Angels game, which was more or less decided when we finished. Even though we basically called it at the end of 2, that was because A, I had to go to the airport, and B, was more or less over at that point.
We mostly played games through to their end, mostly because like kind of in the middle it was like, oh, this is like pretty favorable for both, so let's see what happens. There were a couple times though where it was more like setting up scenarios where it was like, I went first with favorable conditions, I blew a big chunk of your army away. Oh, okay, that's it. All right, well, let's redo it now from the opposite side. What happens if you get like the first turn with favorable conditions? How do I like win out of this one? And then we played like a game from that, right? Because that one's a lot more interesting and also a lot scarier. So there was a little bit of re-racking, but it was like finishing like half a game, seeing the end in sight, and then going, okay, let's go to the other side now and see what happens.
For sure.
But yeah, it wasn't like play one turn, re-rack, It was like play a game mostly to its end or to its complete like end, and then play another game. But the games were very quick, very efficient.
Do you have any thoughts or opinions on this, Tyler? Because I'm curious what is most beneficial for you as practice, what you enjoy more, that kind of thing. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, well, first off, I would say that with my current particular army, it's generally not like sensible to re-rack because turn 1 very little happens. If something terrible happens on turn 1 and we should re-rack, yeah, for sure. But then most of the game is turn 2 because here's my drop turn, here's you retaliating. Now we basically know who's won the game. We can talk it from there essentially. Like I can do clever, scrappy shit, but but the oh man turn 2 didn't go quite well. Re-rack, that's basically the whole game anyway. In general though, I find re-racking to be a trap. I think that there's definitely, it sort of depends on what you're trying to optimize for. If you want to win games on turn 2, and that is how you want to play, like you want the game to be clearly over because you executed well and you did all the starting stuff right and you took the right list and did the right thing, re-rack till the cows come home. Get your opening moves down to a science so that you execute them beautifully, and then it's kind of all just downhill from there. If, however, you are not playing an army that can do that, or you don't feel confident in your ability to do that, or you want to punch up, because you're never going to punch up doing that, you're just going to punch down more and more and more efficiently, you got to play through. Because real games are won and lost in scrappy turn 4s. That's where we're both doing the thing and we're both doing it well, and now we got to see who's a better player comes in, and that's a lot more important to me. Something that you may have picked up on if you've been following the show for a while is that I do not sweat losing a game into a player who, on the surface, probably I'd say is less experienced than I am. I'm totally happy to say, oh, I fucked up and I lost that game. That's going to happen. And I think I do that more than either of these guys do. I think they're pretty consistent into players who are not quite up to their skill level. But the reason for that is that all of my focus is, here is the scrappy stuff, and like here is how we make things happen against anybody. And I think that reflects like in my elo from from Stat Check the way that they do things. Like I have a really good record into really good players. I do really well at Charity Hammer, even when I was playing armies that were not particularly effective, because is the things that I'm focused on work at all levels. So that's just more important to me personally. And that means I'm less likely to win in GTs, but it means that I'm more likely to close the door when I get to that game 5, is my philosophy at least. I am much more likely to lose round 2 or 3 than I am round 5, in my experience. So it sort of depends on what you want to focus on. If you are newer to the game, it's hard. Because,
you should play the game all the way through.
Yeah.
If you're new,
So
you should play all 5 rounds.
There's like a double S curve, I think. If you're very new, you should play everything. If you're at the point where you're like, all right, I'm in contention to win my RTTs and I would like to be going 4-1 at GTs. If your goal is 4-1 at your local GT, you're probably ready to re-rack. Because that, I think, is a lot about, hey, I brought a very strong list and I punked 4 people with it. And I need to practice punking people, right? And you need to not lose games in terrain placement. You need to not lose games in deployment. That's useful to re-rack. Once you feel confident that you can punk some kids, then it starts mattering about scrappiness again. And I suppose there's another hill at the end, which may be where Anthony is at, which is why he feels confident doing that, where it's like, all right, I feel confident in my scrappiness, in my ability to dig myself out of a situation. Let me focus again on now getting perfect, not just perfect enough for 4-1. I don't know. That's just an idea.
I think it's army you play too, because I found myself
Yes.
like re-racking a lot more after like the first 3 turns when I was practicing with Quins, or when I was practicing with votan, because those armies, the goal of the army was like table your opponent in 3 turns, then score. When I was playing with Krons, it was stupid because it's like Krons, the goal was how much can I slow you down while scoring my points, you know? So you want to see the whole course of the game. Like, they're a scrappy army. So playing like the opening 2 turns and then re-racking, it's like, oh, well, I still have... Like, you could come back, like, because I score a lot super early. Like, I want to see if you can come back from this.
Yeah, the point of a Necron game is they score all their points in 3 turns, and then you try to come back from them. So skipping the comeback part misses
stupid.
a lot of valuable data.
Yeah, it was like the old Necrons where, like, you scored a lot at the end. So, like, people who wanted to re-rack, I'm like, no, this is, like, the point. Like, turn 4 is when I start, like, scoring a bunch. Like, you know.
I like re-racks when you and your opponent both look at each other at the end of the battle round and you're like, yeah, this looks really bad for me, or this looks really bad for you. And there's kind of no point in continuing on. Like, you might learn you might, have some new revelations and learn some new stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be anything that you wouldn't learn just by starting the game over again and getting a fresh start on it. But like, if there's any kind of contention in terms of like the game is close, there still could be some valuable stuff we learn from this. Then just play it out.
I think the value of the practice, to build off what you were saying there, Lucas, is also contingent on how in it you are. And if you fuck up and leave a zone and someone deep strikes in a squad of flamers and blows up your whole backfield, top 1, and you're like, man, I have no interest in playing this. I am going to be half-assedly moving models around for the next 2 hours. Like, don't do it. It's not helpful. Yeah. Get your head in the game and be ready to execute that situation perhaps in a tournament, but like...
Like the old Flyrant charging the Starweaver.
Exactly, yeah, that. It's not helpful practice if your heart isn't going to be in it.
Yeah. Just re-rack and especially like if it's a game-ending mistake on turn 1, restart, file a mental note away to never do that again, and then. So. I personally find it a little bit irritating that like a lot of the very best players have this, in my mind, it's a little bit of an elitist attitude of like, yeah, we re-rack every game and we rapid fire games because we're massive brain. And I don't think it's that massive brain. I think it's, it's
I think
you lose a lot of stuff by skipping out on the scrappy end games.
Yep. Hours of practice are frankly probably pretty comparable in either setup. So if you practice for 10 hours and in that time you play 2 games, great. If in that time you play 6 games, cool. I don't think you're at a leg up because you still put 10 hours into it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So that's sort of our thoughts on that. Is that our ending note?
That's it, dude. Talking about practice, talking about
Fantastic. Well, if you've been listening to us for 2 hours and 15 minutes and what was supposed to be a pretty quick episode as usual, that started on time as usual, then I'm sure you're already in the places. But in case you're not, consider supporting us on Patreon. Jump on into our Discord to keep the conversation going. Definitely be checking us out on YouTube. Please, please, please subscribe to us on YouTube. I honestly, if you were like, man, I don't know about this Patreon thing, but also maybe I'll subscribe on YouTube. The YouTube would matter more to me if you go click that subscribe button, because that is how we tell GW that we're good at what we do and how we get preview content, which would be really cool. But also, that's just generally how we get more reach. Look forward to more bit reps coming out. If you want to see all the bit reps on YouTube, there's a members area where some of the bit reps and other content ends up. So that could be real nice if you're into that. Check out our merch. It's over at bestintable.com/store. I haven't put this stuff on screen yet, so I'm going to do that now because I really love our latest line of stuff. Looks like that, and I go share screen, window, the one with the t-shirt. I love this design. I think this looks so cool. Look at that. Look how cool that is.
Stomp good.
Stomp good. Come get any of this stuff. We got lots of cool stuff. bestintabletop.com/store. Check out any of our merch. We got mugs, we got cups, we got t-shirts. We don't have tape measures or chandeliers, but it's a good time. Probably forgetting to plug something. Listen to the other shows; they're great. They're all really, really high quality. Really
Frontiers is fantastic.
Frontiers, baby.
Those guys are doing 10 times as much work as we are.
I'm sure
They're
they're
also
going to
playing in Adelaide right now. Good luck, boys.
Yeah, we gotta shout the boys out. How are the boys doing right now, man? How are the
I have
boys
not
doing
looked this morning.
If you want to join us as well, we will be shaving the tournament mustache next week. So look forward to that.
Absolutely.
Tyler probably will still have a beard by the time we do it'll grow back by the time we do the recap, but I'll have a mustache. So
yeah, in general.
we're gonna try to source something for Lucas. We'll see.
Good luck, guys.
We're definitely getting you one of those googly eye glass mustache things, dude.
Yeah, maybe just a brown Sharpie while Lucas is
A little stick on.
Taus is 3-0. Good for him.
Is he? What was his round 3?
Taus's round 3 was James Beal playing Ultramarines. They're legit.
What's House playing again? Custodes?
Chaos Knights.
13 doggies.
Oh, Chaos Knights. Gotcha.
And he's currently playing it at Josh McMillan, fielding Bloody Rose.
How are the Admech guys doing?
I think one of them, Alexander and Helsos has 300 points after 3 rounds. And the other guy has only 288. He dropped.
Wow,
Well, you heard it here first from the future. Admech, maybe looking up.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Anyway, with that all being said and done, thanks so much for joining us. Check you back in for 2 weeks for the first episode of Season 2 of Best in Faction, the next episode in the next season of the next generation. It's going to be fantastic. With that all being said and done, I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
And I'm still Lucas.
And we'll see you next time. You won't want to miss it.
Bye, idiots.